All right, good evening. Welcome to the North Miami Beach Planning and Zoning Board meeting of Monday, January 12th, 2015. Would everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Would the secretary please call the roll?
Chair Piper?
Here.
Julian Kreisberg?
Here.
Joseph Lidowich? Absent. Hector Marrero? Absent. Saul Smuckler?
Present.
Michael Mosher?
Here.
Jeffrey Lynn?
Here.
You have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. Is there any discussion of the minutes of our previous meeting of Monday, December 8th, 2014? There's no discussion. The chair will accept a motion to approve the minutes.
Move to approve.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. It's required that anyone who wishes to speak on any agenda item take an oath. So if you're planning on speaking on anything, I need you to stand and raise your right hand and repeat after me. I say your name. Swear or affirm to tell the truth, the full truth, and nothing but the truth. Okay, thank you. You may be seated. In addition, anyone speaking at this meeting is required to provide their name and address on the speaker sign-in sheet, which I had asked earlier. But if anybody has not and they're planning on speaking, please, the secretary has that sheet. Also, since there seems to be a fair amount of people here this evening, we're going to have a 2-minute time limit for each speaker. So try to be concise, and also try to keep what you're speaking about as to something that has not been spoken about with somebody else. So if you are speaking about too many things that have been repeated or you're going too long, please don't make me stop you, but I will. So, okay. So the next item is old business. Would the city planner please give us their report?
Good evening. Last month's meeting of December 8th, we heard 3 items. The first item was the comprehensive plan text and future land use map amendment for the property we know as the Seacoast site. This item was tabled and will be heard as part of the overall city's effort, not as a single item ever again. Second item was the zoning and land development code amendment for the maximum height permitted for fences and perimeter walls. This item was approved, amended with the amendment that the point of measurement was going to be the crown of the road. It went to first reading last week, and it passed unanimously, and it will go to second reading on the 20th. The last item we heard last month was the zoning code amendment allowing the construction of flat roofs on single-family homes as an architectural design element. This was approved by this board unanimously, amending the screening of rooftop equipment to be appropriately screened. Again, this passed unanimously on first vote, and will come to second vote on the 20th of January.
Okay, thank you. A couple things I wanted to make sure. Who's going to be in charge of the timer? Okay, well, does anybody know how the big timer works? It might be, but I'm not really sure how that all works. All right, well.
There's a machine they use.
Yeah, it's right there.
And where is it?
Is the gentleman in the booth now? No?
No.
Okay.
All right, well, we'll figure it out.
Thank you.
I'll try to handle that. Okay. And I also want to recognize that we've got several council people here this evening, and I want to thank them all for being here. So, okay, so now for new business. Would the city planner please introduce the first item?
Yes, this evening we will have 4 items under new business. The first item will be introduced by Assistant City Manager Richard Lorber, and I will work on the second, third, and fourth items when the time comes.
Okay,
Okay, so I'll go.
go ahead.
Good evening, board members. Richard Lorber, Assistant City Manager. I've had the pleasure to work on this project since starting here with the city 4 or 5 months ago.
Yeah, microphone, please.
I'm going to get right up into the mic so everybody can hear me. This process started over a year ago when the City Council initiated this process, and the key goal here of this process is to overhaul the comprehensive plan and zoning for several key areas throughout the city to attract new investment, to guide quality development, and to ensure public benefits and neighborhood compatibility. So this initiative, the city hired RMA Associates, who are here with us today, Natasha Alfonso and Jean Dolan. They're zoning and land use specialists. And they have, together with city staff, held several workshop sessions. I think we must have had 5 workshop sessions already to this point. We've had a lot of public input, which the consultants have taken, all the input raised at the various workshops and responded to. By and large, I think we've gotten a very positive reception. There are several developments waiting to see that this passes before they'll come in, and after this, we should see a greater level of development activity. We have projects coming in. You're seeing one later on tonight as a good example. But overall, this is a very positive development. I would just say tonight, in preface, that tonight's hearing is strictly about the amendments to the city's comprehensive plan. And as Planning and Zoning Board, you should know that the comprehensive plan is the city's guiding document with respect to planning and zoning. But then it's the most general level of this policy. More specific details are worked out in the zoning code, the land development regulations, and that will be coming to you shortly. The first step is the comp plan, and then we'll have the zoning. We'll have a zoning workshop with the City Council on January 27th, which again, just like the last week's workshop, the Planning Board members will be invited to. At that point, we get into more detail. We'll go into these districts in greater detail. We'll look at architecture, more specific measurements for setbacks, coverage. So some of your questions you may have today, I'm going to be saying, my answer will be, this is the comp plan, and then next month we will get involved with the zoning with a greater level of detail. So these are the overarching policies, sort of the aerial view from 50,000 feet in the air. And this sets the policy, it's a general vision, and I must say that we're very pleased to be presenting this to you tonight. So with that, I'll allow Jean from RMA to get into a brief presentation. I think you're pretty familiar with the gist of this. We've presented this before and had our workshop, but any questions we'll clarify for you. We hope to gain your support for this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Good evening, board, staff, and members of the public. My name is Jean Dolan with RMA. We're going to go step you through the comprehensive plan amendments to create these mixed-use districts within the city of North Miami Beach. We've been working with staff quite extensively throughout this process, so what we're going to do is first talk about comprehensive plan versus zoning so that you have a real sharp idea in your mind of what the difference is. We'll look at the overview of our public input process to date, what we heard as we were workshopping this through the community and how it's been addressed in the comp plan. The comp plan concurrency analysis, which is the bulk of that application that you were given in your packet. And then we'll talk about the next steps in the comprehensive plan amendment and zoning process, and you'll see how they kind of start to dovetail after this meeting. So first, let's talk just for a brief moment about the difference between comprehensive planning and zoning. The comprehensive plan is dictated by Chapter 163. It's a specific state statute, and it establishes the vision, the purpose, and the philosophy behind these districts that we're creating. The thing about the comp plan is it's very inflexible. So what you put in it, you want it to always be true for any set of circumstances. You don't want to put a specific criteria in there that you'll wish later that you could tweak it for a particular project. So these are philosophies, statements that will always hold true. We also establish our maximum entitlements in the comprehensive plan. That means the total number of units and square footages that can be built within a particular district. And then all the amendments of the comprehensive plan are what we're calling concurrency impacts on paper. One of the things that people get confused about when we talk about comprehensive plan impact analysis is we'll say we're creating this district, but it has no additional impacts, and that doesn't sound right to people. That's because when you do a concurrency analysis on a comprehensive plan, you look at what the plan currently allows compared to what you're proposing. You don't look at a specific project on the street and see how it's going to impact existing conditions. So we'll get into that in detail in a little bit, but it's one of the more important things to understand as we go through this presentation. Zoning is different in that zoning creates more specificity. So we'll create these broad districts. Then when we come in with the zoning, we'll create sub-districts. And with the mixed use, we'll have a core, a center, and an edge, all with different standards. In a typical zoning district or land use category that's just commercial, within that you'll have different zoning districts, B1, B2, B3, and so forth. So zoning becomes much more specific. Zoning also establishes net entitlements, where the comp plan goes to the center line of the road, the zoning only goes to the property line. So you're cutting back on the entitlements that are allowed within the comp plan with your zoning. And it further restricts based on setbacks and so forth. All these details are in the zoning. The concurrency impact analysis at a zoning level is where you actually look at where the rubber hits the road. When you come in with the zoning change, you'll be looking at how does this particular project impact the existing conditions. It's not just a paper analysis like with the comp plan. So these things we've taken through the public input process for, like Richard said, it started a year ago, but our first outreach meeting was in March 11th, where we had our kickoff meeting. Then between March and June, we did various stakeholder interviews. We did an urban design analysis, the land use and zoning analysis. Then in July, we went one-on-ones with the city council to make sure they understood where we were going and we understood where they wanted to go. September 15th, 22nd, and October 6th, we had outreach meetings in all the communities. And then on October 21, we workshopped the entire proposal with the city council. And then you were all here most of you were here on January 6th, where we just went through the same presentation with the city commission at a workshop. So this is the same presentation, just with a little bit of update here and there based on what input we got that night. So the way we organize this presentation is really about how we heard the issues as we were doing all these workshops and how we've addressed it in the comprehensive plan with the map and text amendments. The new districts that we're proposing, and we're going to talk about them in this order, we have the town center, which is the mixed-use town center, the Fulford City Center, that's Area 1. Then we have two employment centers, which are 5 and 6 on this map. That's the 163rd Street South area and the 159th Street South area, which is also known as the TECO site. Then we have 3 waterfront districts, which on the map are areas 3, 4, and 7, the northern, southern, and eastern waterfront districts, the mixed-use corridor, and the mixed-use neighborhood center. We're going to talk about the issues we heard in those and how we've addressed these issues in the comprehensive plan policies. So our first district that we're going to talk about is the mixed-use town center. We created a new policy, 1.6.6, and this establishes the philosophy for this district, which is to encourage transit-oriented development consistent with an urban downtown and it prohibits standalone auto-oriented uses like big parking lots, gas stations, auto service, and those types of uses. The issues that we heard raised with when we workshopped this area was the concern about the treatment of the Snake Creek Canal, alleys and utility issues, public art, and the incentives for redevelopment in the CRA, because that entire area is within the CRA. So all of these issues were addressed in one policy, 1.8.7. You're going to hear a lot about this policy because what this does is establishes a pre-application meeting requirement for anybody who's coming in to do development in one of these mixed-use districts. And we've called out these specific items in this policy so that 10 years from now, they're not going to forget what the issues were in this district, so that when staff, whoever that might be at the time, looks at this policy, they'll know when we do a pre-app in this district, we're going to talk about these issues, about utility locations, alleys, how we're going to treat Snake Creek Canal for a particular project, the placement of public art, and the eligibility of tax increments and other development incentives for a particular project. Alleys and utilities are also dealt with in policy 1.8.8, which is the policy that sets up the design principles for any project coming in within one of the mixed-use districts. In this, we specifically call out decisions about the alley abandonments, some of these other issues. So when they come in with their design, they know that these are issues that have to be addressed. The Snake Creek Canal issue is also specifically addressed in policy 1.8.6, where we talk about the open space and greenway systems master plan, regulating plan. Every one of the mixed-use district will have one of these regulating plans in the zoning, and it will specifically call out how they're going to address their requirements for open space and greenways, particularly along the Snake Creek Canal in this district. Public art is addressed in policy 1.8.1, and all the mixed-use districts will be required to address where the public art is most appropriate and how they're going to contribute to that amenity. Incentives for redevelopment are already in your comprehensive plan. We've just amended policy 1.6.3 somewhat to add some of these additional items that we've identified, like shared parking agreements, the air rights over alleys and other rights of way, and also public-private agreements, which is something that wasn't originally addressed in your comp plan, which does give you some options for providing some more incentives for redevelopment. Now, the mixed-use employment center policies are next. With the philosophy of these districts is created by policy 1.6.7, which is new. This applies to the 163rd Street South and the 159th Street South mixed-use employment center areas. The highlights of this philosophy is these are for economic development. They do allow some limited auto-oriented uses, so it's not strictly transit-oriented uses. However, they do need to be designed in a way that's still compatible with pedestrian activity, and it allows for both vertically and horizontally mixed use. The issues raised in this area in the employment centers dealt with compatibility with lower density adjacent residential areas, and also the issue with the historic designation for the TICO building, however that ends up playing out. To address this, again, policy 1.8.7 specifically notes that when there's a pre-app in one of these areas, these issues have to be addressed. We also specifically note what the transition area is in policy 1.8.8 that says how a mixed-use project will have to be stepped back with heights whenever it's next to a lower density residential area. And then we have our mixed-use waterfront districts. The new policy 1.6.9 creates the philosophy for that, mixed-use waterfront districts for all three of our districts. Again, the philosophy is to maximize the economic and aesthetic resource that is the waterfront and allowing residential to go there, creating more entitlements for residential development on the waterfront while ensuring public access to the water. So the issues raised when we workshop these districts, again, public access to the waterfront. There's a substation in the South Waterfront District that needs to be screened. Additional access to Eastern Shores, particularly another access to 826 was raised. The rescue station and the police substation for Eastern Shores was also raised for that Eastern Waterfront District. So again, these were addressed in policy 1.8.7, so all these issues have to be addressed whenever an applicant comes in to do any development in those waterfront districts, all three, north, south, and east. So the specific districts were added there. You'll see that we did add the language about specific access to 826. When we had this policy originally written, it was more generic about just additional access points. The City Commission at the workshop requested that it specifically note an extra access to 826, so we have added that into that policy. Policy 1.8.8 also deals with the public access to the waterfront by requiring some sort of access and public realm improvements in all these waterfront districts. The mixed-use corridor is also one of our districts where we set a new policy, 1.6.10. This establishes the philosophy for that district. This is more of an auto-oriented district, but again, it needs to be designed to be compatible with pedestrian activity, and it still allows for vertical and horizontal mixed uses. The issues here were more about awareness of the adjacent Biscayne Landing, the environmental cleanup going on there, floodplain encroachment, and connectivity and crime prevention issues. And again, these are all addressed in policy 1.8.7, where we'll have our pre-app, and these meetings will be, these issues will be discussed. Our final district, the mixed-use neighborhood center, is on the north end, just south of the new hotel parcel. Yes. This is where we're having a balanced mix of uses. It's more of a neighborhood-oriented mixed-use area, and we didn't have any specific issues identified that are related to the comprehensive plan in this district. So the comprehensive plan concurrency analysis is what we're going to talk about next. When you do a comprehensive plan concurrency analysis, like I mentioned before, what you're doing is comparing the total entitlements that your current comprehensive plan allows versus what we're proposing today in the basket of rights. So this is different than looking at an existing conditions analysis, and we just want to make sure everyone's clear on that. Policy 1.8.2 is the policy in the comprehensive plan that establishes the total entitlements for all these mixed-use districts, and this is perhaps one of the most important policies in this new plan amendment. Each one of the districts has its own basket of rights. And really, I'm not going to read through what each one of the rights are, because for this to have any meaning, you have to compare it to what was already in the basket of rights or in the comp plan entitlements for these districts. What you'll see when you look at each one by one is we're increasing residential within these areas by about 31%. That's because we're increasing residential in areas that were previously completely commercial, the waterfront areas and the employment centers, so that you can have more mixed use. This is page 30. Yeah, and what this shows is that the non-residential entitlements are 86% less in our current proposal than they were in the comprehensive plan. And what this results in is all the impact analysis on paper makes all your impacts look much less, except for those that are only impacted by residential units, which are parks and recreation and public education. So those become the two areas that you really need to focus on in terms of level of service standards.
This in the application package, that table was on page 8, and then follows.
Yeah, we're following.
They're
We're following along in the
Yeah.
Okay,
in this thing. So
fine. Same thing.
Okay, so with the parks and recreation analysis, your adopted level of service is 2 acres per thousand. In your city, you have 165.7 acres. With this amendment, you'll have 52,000 people at build-out, so you'll need 104 acres, and you already have more than 104 acres in your current supply. So quantitatively, you have enough parks. However, we're also concerned about geographically. So even though out there in the city you might have enough parks, we want to make sure that within each one of these districts you also have a nice supply of open space, green space, and amenities for people to enjoy. So within each one of these districts, there will be a recreation regulating plan, an open space regulating plan, and the draft plans that we have now have another 4,100 linear feet of waterfront and 14 acres of recreation and open space, and still all these entitlements can be developed on in those districts. So you do meet your level of service standards without additional space, but obviously we're looking at creating more additional space so that you have a geographic distribution of open spaces within these new districts. The public education analysis was also conducted based on Miami-Dade's concurrency service area methodology. This is not a school-specific methodology. They have an area within all the schools within that area that are affected are looked at, and it shows when you do this analysis that there is adequate capacity to handle the additional children that would be generated at full build-out of the proposed entitlements. So the next steps in our comprehensive plan amendment process, after our Planning and Zoning Board hearing tonight, it'll go to City Council for first reading next Tuesday. Then the state will get it for about 30 to 45 days. They'll review all our amendments. We'll address any comments once we get those comments back, and then it'll go to City Council's second reading. The timeline for that activity, you see right now we're on the January 12th Planning and Zoning Board. January 20th is the City Council's first reading. Then up till March, we'll have the state review. And March 17th, we're looking at second reading and adoption. At the same time, the zoning regulations are going to be going on. January 27th is when we're going to have our City Council workshop on that, and we would encourage all of you to come to hear about the zoning.
Please do.
February 9th, you'll be getting the zoning in front of yourselves for your recommendation to the council. Then March 3rd, council first reading, and then March 17th, both the comp plan second reading and the zoning second reading would happen at the same hearing, with the comp plan coming first, followed by the zoning. So with that kind of concludes our presentation, and we can get right to your specific question.
Okay, good. We'll have the board will be asking you several questions. Just a couple global or kind of questions to begin with before we start. One of them being the Planning and Zoning Board's purpose here. Typically on other kind of projects, it's a recommendation to the council. And I just want to clarify that in this particular situation, we're serving the same kind of purpose, or
Yes.
can you, anything else you want to let us know so that we kind of know where we stand in this process? Pretty much the same thing?
This would be reviewing this and making a recommendation to the City Council for their hearing coming up next week.
Okay.
At the same time, you're getting very familiar with this. We're moving on to the zoning, and then we'll be dealing with this for the next several years. So
Okay.
You're on the right path.
No problem. And then the other question I had was, as far as who specifically put this package together? Was it completely city staff? Was there outside consultants involved, or can you just give me an idea of the construction of that and how that?
Combination. These two ladies are from RMA, Redevelopment Management Associates. That's our consulting firm. They worked on this along with our planning and zoning department staff.
Okay.
So it's a
All right.
joint effort, but clearly we owe a lot to this consulting firm.
Okay.
And I can add a little bit to that. What happens is the council did their strategic plan and identified the areas where they wanted to do mixed use. And then they went out to bid and said, who can help us figure out how to improve our mixed-use categories within these areas? And we bid on the job, we got the job, and then we defined the regulations that we're proposing tonight.
Okay.
Gene makes a good point. I omitted it earlier. This effort springs out of the strategic plan that has been adopted by the council. So that strategic plan contains policies to encourage new development, to revitalize our corridors. So this is where this springs from.
Okay. All right. And RMA is a consulting firm that has expertise in this field, and you've done this before with several cities and.
Yes, they're perhaps the preeminent firm in this area of the country for that. You can see by the quality what a good job they do. This is their business. They've had a lot of good successes in other cities. They're really doing a good job for NMB.
Okay. All right. You can just briefly tell us a little bit about what just a couple highlights of what your firm does and what you kind of projects you've done before.
Sure. Good evening. For the record, Natasha Alfonso. I'm the Director of Urban Design and Planning for RMA. Our company really has, it's a really multifaceted company. We've got departments that deal with only management of CRAs, areas such as in North Miami Beach, the downtown area. where our goal or our focus is to help bring incentives and redevelopment within those blighted areas through programs, management, all kinds of things. We also have a department that deals with planning and zoning. We've written collectively probably over 50 codes in different cities throughout, in different parts of the state and in different parts of the country. We also have an economic development division, which actually deals with studying the market analysis. And before we did the writing of the code for NMB, we actually did an extensive market analysis of what the potential for the area is in terms of redevelopment and new development, as well as not only the demand, but the potential in terms of what you've already attracted to the city and what's around you. We also have a department that deals with real estate, so we go out and actively pursue public-private partnerships. So in a CRA, not only in CRAs, but for other parts of the cities that maybe could be city-owned or not, where we're actively looking for the right partnerships. And then the last department that we have is marketing. So what we actually do is at the end of all of this, we will help the city brand themselves, whether it's in the CRA in a specific district, like the downtown, for example, or in other areas where you're creating entertainment districts and things of that nature. We will do the branding of that area, as well as writing the finance plan and the marketing plan for that area. So we're all inclusive.
Just to add one thing, make it very clear, they work for the city, not any developers. They work for us.
Right.
It's not a private company hired by a developer.
Right. Okay. All right. Good. Yeah, I was gonna go one by one, but if there's something that's globally and not specific, then go ahead. Ma'am, use your microphone.
Yes.
How old is your firm, please?
Our partners are the two founders have been
no,
working.
when your RMA, when was it
Correct.
established?
We got established in 5 years ago collectively, but Chris Brown has been in this field with redevelopment starting back in Delray for over 30 years. Kim Briesmeister as well has more than 30 years in the redevelopment business. But they joined forces just nearly 5 years ago to create.
So RMA is a 5-year-old firm.
Yes.
You mentioned many different divisions. How many people do you employ, please?
We have about 30 at the moment.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So, do any board members have any questions? I guess we'll start with Mr. Mosier.
The net effect of all of this.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. The net effect of all of this study. Are we creating more impact on the area based on above and beyond what was approved previously, or is it just redistributing residential, commercial, et cetera?
The net effect is 31% more residential units, and here, this is the slide, and 86% less non-residential units.
I have that.
So overall, on paper, we're actually reducing impacts because there's so much less non-residential in this basket of rights than in the comprehensive plan previously.
And does that include traffic, commercial traffic,
Yeah.
automobile traffic?
In regards to comprehensive planning, like I said before, when you do a comprehensive plan analysis, it's all the impacts on paper. So if you're reducing the entitlements, you're reducing the impacts.
Now, we're going to be in front of you with projects down the line that will involve an increase of traffic, an increased demand on public services.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of tonight's hearing, the comprehensive plan, she's explained it correctly.
Right.
It's an increase in units, a decrease in vested commercial, so it's an actual reduction.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Smuckler.
Hello. I'd like to address RMA and tell them that what they've presented looks like a very thorough and scientific approach and a plan. But I've looked it over and I see some conflicting issues, and they don't seem to be enough specific information on the different areas. So first I'd like to go to page 17 of the application that has the traffic analysis.
Yes.
And I would like them to explain the response, because I've read it, I've had other people read it, and I still don't know what that means.
The bottom line with traffic in the comprehensive plan is if you're reducing the total number of entitlements, you're going to be reducing the traffic,
Explain what's entitlements.
the total basket of rights. If you look
So
at,
I don't know what your total basket of rights. Can you
yeah,
tell us what that is?
if you look at if you do the math on your comp plan
Mm-hmm.
and you total up, if everyone built the maximum they could build, which is what the state requires you to analyze, you compare that to what you're proposing. So your current comprehensive plan allows 86% more non-residential than what we're proposing. The reason for that is because the comp plan allows you to go up to a certain height and a certain lot coverage. So you assume everyone builds this giant box, 100% of the area is covered with the same height, the same lot
Yeah,
coverage.
but my problem with that is that each one of these districts is different. They're different
Yes.
capacities, different existing land use, and you're saying these are all the same and we have a uniform maximum. Is that what you're saying?
No, each is broken out by district, and then it's totaled at the bottom.
Right.
But so
for example,
take an
yeah.
example district.
Give me an example. The intracoastal,
Okay, so East MUWF. Is
Right.
The last one.
the last one,
Currently, right now, our code and our comp plan, if you built everything you could build under what's authorized by the comp plan, that would be 717 apartments.
but where's the breakdown of commercial? Existing,
Here, this is not existing. This is on the comprehensive.
well, that's what I
plan.
meant by existing, on the current comp plan.
Right, so here.
Yeah.
Under East WF, adopted land uses, meaning existing today, today's adopted comp plan. If you built everything you could build on that site, it's 717 apartment units and 16.3 million square foot of commercial. Now,
It's page 30 of the presentation.
or 17 in the
Yeah,
analysis.
I'm looking, it's the same information on page 17
Right.
of the other.
That's right.
Now,
package, right?
proposed land use would increase 717 units to 2,000 units on paper.
So in
And
that particular parcel, at the intracoastal, we're talking about reducing the commercial from 16,000,
16 million.
16 million, I'm sorry, to 2 million.
Yes.
So
Today's comprehensive plan is
16 million.
too big. Too big.
It's too big. So everything that's there, what's currently there?
Not that.
Well, what is it?
What is currently there today is
answer that.
approximately 250,000 square feet of non-residential.
250,000.
And there's a mix. And the reason we know that it's because we did a very extensive site analysis of what's there, what
Right.
what could fit within the new envelope or massing of the buildings.
Let me tell you what my main problem is, because we're used to seeing with packages that come before us, a traffic study. I mean, we have a package here for one building, literally across the street from us, and the traffic study is probably almost as thick as your entire package.
You will be
For that
getting
one-
that for every project that
Well,
comes
yeah,
forward.
I understand, but I think that has to come with this, because we're putting the wagon before the horse, because none of this is correct.
Well,
This-
let me just
Again,
interrupt for
a
one
I-
second.
comprehensive plan is the first thing.
Yeah.
It's the most
Yeah, but
general.
how can you tell me that you're going to decrease the trips from 190,000 at the intracoastal to 67,000?
On
And this is the only,
Okay.
we need a traffic study
This
that's going to
is
prove that to us.
exactly why,
The math.
if you
So
look at the
I'm going to tell you, we're going to
presentation-
go to Mars tomorrow, but we don't have the food and we don't have the air, but we still want to go to Mars. You want to go to Mars here.
This document is saying we want to go to Mars.
Yeah,
The
but you
details
don't
come
have,
later.
but if it's not feasible, why are we going to spend all this time and effort if it can't be done?
Well,
I mean, if a traffic study is going to tell us that the impact, which that's my prediction at this point, without just looking at this one sheet of paper for a complete comprehensive plan versus a package that thick for one property, that's what I'm looking
it
at.
has to start with the general. This is the amendment to the comprehensive plan, which is the most general. The math works.
It doesn't work for me.
Well,
Because you're generalizing, you're saying all these are the same. They're all under this realistic basket of rights.
we're calculating what the
That's
total
the,
max build out is today. under the comp plan, not
Yeah.
under the zoning,
Yeah.
not under approved site plans, not under any
Well,
vesting.
maybe that's not realistic. That's why we're
But
changing
the
that too.
comprehensive plan is not realistic. As
So I'm
you-
saying the existing comprehensive plan does not exist, correct? We're going much higher than
In
that.
order to
No,
move
we're-
forward and be able to
Oh, you're
get
not
into
going
the
lower.
more
We're going-
detailed zoning analysis.
We're going much lower with the commercial, the existing commercial
Right.
potential
Well,
impact
then
versus.
let me go to another. Let's turn the page to page 18.
And just hang on, just before you go there, just one
Yeah.
thing I
It's
wanted
all-
to.
It's all inter.
Is it just so that we have an understanding of this particular piece in the big picture of things? This is kind of like the, let's call it worst case, best case, pipe dream type of scenario.
Yes.
This gives you the opportunity to see potential projects without them having limitations. And it doesn't mean the project is going to go forward. There's still several other layers that it needs to go through before a project gets approved.
Correct.
So by saying, that this plan is going to allow that much potential development, one way or the other, depending upon what it is, doesn't mean it's necessary. In order for that to actually happen, I guess the point is, and perhaps the concern would be, and I want to address that also, is we're saying now that we can have potential of 2,000 residential units.
Yes.
So does that mean that a developer, once this gets approved, however long it takes to get approved, because I guess it's going to go through us, the council, the state, wherever it's going to go. Once that actually happens and it's approved, does that mean that, and I don't think it does, that a developer can come with a 2,000 unit project the next day and say, I'm here, I don't need a variance, let me go forward?
Totally not.
Okay. I
this-
want to
understand
clarify
that.
that.
Why are we
Night
putting
vests,
this pie in the
nothing.
sky, attracting these, and spending everybody's time and effort if they're not doable projects?
Because
So we're not doing a full job here
So-
by just generating these partial.
Well,
on paper results.
because let's just say that, and
Yeah.
I'm kind of sensing that the 2,000 unit is the rub for you a little bit. Let's just say
Well,
that it is
there's more.
arbitrarily. All right, we'll go there. But I just want
Yeah.
to lay this out. So if this is the rub, and the concern is that why are we giving this possibility? The thought is that there may be a good way to do this, and there may not be a good way to do this. If there is a good way to do this, and we don't have it written into the plan that we can potentially do this, then if there's a good way, then the plan is going to stop that development and it may be a very good way to do it. If the concern is a traffic study, and there may be some great plan of tunnels and bridges and whatever to completely eliminate whatever traffic concern there may
No,
be.
that's not possible.
I understand that, but
We're not at the Jetsons yet.
right, but we don't know. But I guess my point is that let's say that there was something like that.
Yeah.
If we didn't have that built into the comp plan, then we could never have that. So then, if something came forward that was that kind of project, then the comp plan would have to be redone all over again. Whereas by having that option in the comp plan, that can happen, but there's, what I'm understanding, there's a lot of other things that would be roadblocks in the way if it's not a good plan. So this is not something that's giving a developer saying, hey, you're all good to go, come bring your project. It's basically, bring your project, we're going to take a look at it, but you've got a lot of things to go through before you can,
Well,
there's a lot of
yeah,
hurdles.
On those
So-
same lines, if we can refer you to, I don't know what this is called. It has the yellow border around it. It says future land use element. Page 1-7, the comp plan. So this is our current comp plan? This was in my package. You, RMA, you guys
In Appendix
reviewed that?
E? Are you in Appendix E?
Exhibit 2, future land use element.
Right, that's our Exhibit 2.
So who generated this one?
What page are you on?
It matters, different pages you generated, and,
Well, if
Some
it's
didn't.
in our application, it has a page number on it, and I can
Trying to
point
find
it.
what your point is.
oh,
You're-
1-7 is the page I've got marked off.
1 dash.
And the item is policy 1.5.1. And it starts off, unless extremely compelling reasons are
Oh,
advanced,
yeah.
then any developer plan amendments and rezoning requests that would increase population densities in the Eastern Shores area in order to avoid further burdens on the hurricane evacuation process.
Yes, that's Exhibit E. That is in your existing comp plan.
So has that been deleted then? That will be deleted?
No, the city has compelling reasons to do it, and
Compelling-
that will be laid out in the whereas clauses in the ordinance when they
Okay.
do adopt the plan amendments.
So vacant parcels should be developed at densities and intensities consistent with future land use area map. So now we're telling them
But what page is that on? There's page numbers in the bottom.
1-7.
I'm not seeing it.
You said with the yellow border?
Yeah,
One
yeah,
dash
here,
seven.
pass it around if you guys. I got it in my package. So, but I've got other discrepancies. This isn't,
I don't know.
Exhibit two.
I think they gave you a different package to get you all worked up.
Exhibit 2.
I
You guys
think
have
you're
an
looking
exhibit
at a different item.
Yeah, the only Exhibit 2 that we have.
No, we got it here, page 17, 1-7.
You're looking at the water supply amendment.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
That
in the
is not-
package with the water supply.
Well, that's,
Okay, but that's not part of what we're talking about
Sure
right
it is.
now.
It says, at the top, it says North Miami Beach Comprehensive Plan, Volume 1.
know what that is, but
or, well, our
And it's talking
consultants-
about hurricane evacuation of people in Eastern Shores.
That's the next
Not
item. I
increasing-
think that's the next item.
Well, this is all one big happy city.
But we have to go in some kind of order. I mean,
our
Yeah, we
page-
do. You ask
Go to
for questions.
page
and I'm-
52. Go to page 52 of our application. It has that policy.
Okay, so it's the same policy I'm reading?
On page 52?
Let me get to that, hold on.
What is it, 1 point what?
what did you say the policy number was?
Has everybody in the audience got copies of this, that you're following us along?
1.1.
I'm so sorry.
What is it, 1 point, what is the policy number?
1.5.1. Oh, it skips
Not in
over.
here.
All right. We don't have it.
No, it's in a different application for the next item or something.
No, but it's in the policy. It's skipped over.
All right.
I'm sorry, it's page
what does this
49
mean?
in our application, I apologize.
49?
Page
Yeah,
49.
Are the ones that they're changing?
No, the policies that are quoted on page 52 from the application on the agenda item that we are speaking on,
Yeah.
which is the comp plan amendment for the zoning overlay districts. Those policies are policies that are, they cited as specifically supportive of what they mentioned. The policy you referenced from the other agenda item is part of our existing comp plan. It just is not in this package.
Well, it is actually on
It's in there,
page
it's on
49.
Page 49.
40 yeah, it's the third item down on page 49.
Okay,
Wow.
it just is in a different location.
Okay. I see it. 1.5.1.
Right.
Okay. So, to me, I'm reading this and I'm saying that's completely contradictory to the
Well, I just want to,
parcel in,
let me just say that in the city's strategic plan, they set out compelling reasons why they wanted to do this, so we do feel that we're consistent with that policy.
Right, and if I may just add a little bit to that, when we started this process a year ago, and as I said earlier, our company, we have all these disciplines. We look at economic redevelopment, development, incentives. We do an extensive analysis of the area in terms of what can be absorbed in the area, not only in terms of demand, but in terms of potential. When we look at the goals of the strategic plan, and we see that the goal for the city is to move forward, open for business, encourage redevelopment and new development, and how we can encourage improvements to the city, we took that very, very much at heart in every one of these districts. And by that I mean we looked at not only the potential, what's there in the ground today, what's limiting it, what's limiting the redevelopment and the new development in terms of your comp plan. In most cases, not in the downtown per se, you'll see that in the downtown the density stayed the same, because that analysis was conducted a few years ago where you actually increased your entitlements. But if you look at the waterfront districts, which are the areas that could attract new development and a good substantial tax base for the city, which will eventually become or get implemented into improvements
Okay.
in other areas within the city. Just one second.
yeah, thank you.
can see that
Before you
was
go on,
the
before you go on,
purpose
because we're in the middle of
our
questions and
analysis.
answers, on that issue you just touched on the waterfront properties, if we could look at page 18, which is discussing mass transit analysis, and the response to the second question, which says, if one can meet domestic needs of a worker within a short walk, and workers meet their typical workday needs without a personal vehicle. So I'm interpreting that to say that in your traffic analysis, you're including the workers not have a vehicle and they're going to work on the premises.
No, it's saying that this type of development that we envisage for the downtown area.
Oh, so this is specific for downtown. This doesn't apply to the waterfront properties. How would I know that?
No, this is in general.
But it doesn't apply. We agree it doesn't apply.
Again,
right?
that it is not saying we're not counting. It's saying that we're trying to encourage mix of uses. We're
Right.
trying to encourage
Okay, but
the,
can I?
the ability for people
Yeah.
to have other modes, for other options,
And
perhaps live near.
and these will probably be true scenarios, but not in any of the waterfront properties that you're looking at.
In fact, if they build mixed use,
But yourself, you're saying that you're reducing the industrial, the business in these areas, so there'll be less. Well, that's
not
what
in
we're
real
looking at.
life.
Of course, if you put it on paper, then that's what has to go down.
Well, because
Real
we,
life.
No, you see, you really have to keep those two things separate.
I don't
The
understand.
comprehensive plan has this theoretical number
Right.
that takes the maximum amount that could be built. That's for the state, that's for the maximum development potential. We're now talking about, you could have a vacant piece of land. Any development is going to be an increase. But
I'm almost finished, by the way. I understand what
we're
you're
really
getting at.
trying to explain the
Yeah,
difference to you.
you're not going to convince me. I'm against it in its present, just so you know, as of now, I'm voting this against this.
If your
But-
philosophy is
yeah.
you don't think that there should be any increase in density or intensity because of the
No,
hurricane
I didn't say that.
action,
I
then
didn't say that. This is a very nice proposal, very well put together, but I think we should look at it and pick at it and not really in its present context. I don't think it's
The technical
acceptable.
aspect you raised, though, I have to say that the charts are correct. The charts are correct. That is the way this is done. The charts that show the reduction, the increase, they're correct. So let's.
All right, let me,
pass-
I've got one more item here, and then I'm done on this item. Policy 1.131.2. So on this future land use, it's on page 25. I don't know where it is in your other document, so. It's, the city shall provide tax incentives, reduced parking requirements, density and height bonuses, or expedited permitting for buildings proposed to be built under the adopted green standards. So that means we're going to allow them to go higher density and higher height and density if they meet the green standard. Right?
This is an
It could
existing.
be.
It could be. It could be a
She's
policy.
saying that it's an existing policy now.
Right,
Again, this
right.
is a comp plan document. This
Yeah.
is stating philosophy.
So these are what they're proposing in their new zoning is not even a maximum because we might let them even go higher.
No, again, you're.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, that policy would apply to your zoning code, not your comp plan.
right.
Your your comp plan sets forth policies that you can use,
Right.
so that when
So,
the zoning code may have less height than what you allow in your comprehensive plan.
So why would in a comprehensive plan would we put a higher number?
Your-
Your,
Flexibility.
it
When we're not
is.
going-
Your comp plan is
20-year plan.
the top, it's the highest, and then your zoning code is more restrictive. It's each,
That's
it's kind of like
that trip to Mars again.
no, if you can just let me
Yeah.
explain,
No, I'm
because
trying to
it's not
understand.
that out.
Yeah.
You have your charter, and then you have your code of ordinances,
Mhm.
and then you have your resolutions. Your charter is the conceptual, almost constitution of the city. Then you have your code of ordinances, which are the specific rules that broadly apply. And then you have resolutions, which are contracts and very specific to people and situations. Your comprehensive plan is akin to your charter. It's very broad. It can have the most heights. It can have the broadest amount of density, intensity allowed. Your zoning code is going to be more restrictive. When you have a policy in your comprehensive plan that says something for green building, you can offer incentives for height, that's something that you can or cannot have in your zoning code. Maybe in certain districts, they want to incentivize development, so they'll allow them to increase height based on that green building, but it's only if it's in your zoning code, and it still has to be consistent with your comprehensive plan. So if your comprehensive plan has a height limit of 20 stories, you can't, in your zoning code, have a height limit of 30 or allow somebody to go beyond that. I hope that helped, just so you understand that just because we have that policy doesn't mean that we can contradict it.
I don't see the point to having a policy if you're not going to use it, if you're not going to allow it. Why would we allow X number of units if you're going to allow X minus Y when you zone it? And I hear Bill saying,
Richard.
Richard, well, Bill and Richard, and is it William? No. It's the same thing. If you're going to say you're going to allow 2,000, that's what people are going to go for. Because I'm a contractor myself.
They're going to try, but
they're going to try.
But
Yeah.
then on the other hand, there's
So-
requirements for
Yeah.
public promenades, public parks, enhanced
Yeah.
access, more connectivity to
Well,
nearby roadways.
Yeah.
It's not likely that you get to the maximum
Yeah.
when you have the further requirements. But
I don't know how many of us
it's our
here
business.
have had the pleasure of driving in the area in the last couple of months and know what the density in the roadways is.
And I would say,
And what we're looking at here, and I look at neighboring communities like Aventura, and none of them have these kind of proposed densities right off of the main, right on US 1, like the two will at the two, not Eastern Shores, but the other two on the waterfront.
I think the densities in general are compatible with
Yeah, but
The
all these
surrounding-
all vehicles are going to be right on US 1. So if I'm on US 1 coming from Aventura, how do I, in the Dean's Gold, that adult club property, the only way I can get to that is by doing a U-turn on 163rd.
But that's an issue of the roadway. That's
Well,
not
but
a-
we have to look at that. We're going to approve
We
this.
will be looking at that on a site basis. When
But
we
it,
get
it
to
can't
looking
be
at
it can't be
that site.
accomplished. So not only do we need to do a complete traffic study, I think, my opinion, but we also have to get dialogue with DOT to see what's going to be allowed
You're absolutely
before we
right.
approve a plan such as this.
But you don't need to do that for approving the comprehensive plan. You do that when we get to the zoning.
No,
Specifically to the site.
I disagree with
The
that.
traffic implication of this document is reducing the traffic.
No, I
on
think
that
we're putting
site. So
the,
it's a paper exercise. You have to bear with us. This is what this
Yeah.
document is.
and its present condition, as I said earlier, I can't vote in favor.
Okay.
I'm
this
just, yeah.
Can't change.
All right, so anyway,
So you guys go on.
I think that we just need some clarification, I guess, as to going forward. It's really important that we know this as a board. Is the idea of this plan to try to be extremely non-restrictive so that the opportunities are there for whatever might be coming forward? However, on the other hand, I guess the big concern is that how are the levels of protection going to be put in place? How if we say that you can potentially do high density at his example of the Dean's Gold property, and it really turns out that the roadway and traffic just won't work for that. Can you kind of tell us and kind of put us at ease as to if we're coming here and saying today, okay, go ahead and make that unrestricted and make that high density, how do we know that if there is not a good roadway solution or traffic solution or something like that, that project won't go forward anyway?
Richard,
and I think that's what the concern that I'm hearing right now.
Just before he answers that last question, going back to your original, what you started off with, I don't think this plan is less restrictive. If you compare it to what your comp plan says today, this is more restrictive in that there's requirements for public open space, public access to the waterfront. We're even asking for additional access points within the site, all of which do not exist within your current plan today. And yet, there are more non-residential entitlements currently in the ground for that particular site, which actually entail or create more traffic issues. That's why you see the reduction. It's not unrealistic. We're opening it up for a potential in order to really encourage redevelopment, but at the same time, we're creating not only through policies, and you'll see it in the zoning when it comes back to you within 2 weeks, you'll see how restrictive it is where we put those things in place that require those things within the zoning district. So they cannot deviate. Those are more restrictive than what you have today, both in your comp plan and your zoning. So I'll leave the last question to Richard.
I wouldn't use the word restrictive. I'd say it's trying to add flexibility. At the same time, it's adding more flexibility. It's also requiring more. So the goal is to foster well-planned, viable developments. So yes, it is trying to make new investment occur. It is trying to encourage those types of mixes that are currently desirable in the market. You need flexibility, especially in the comp plan, to be able to do that. But with zoning and with site plan review, you bore down to a much more specific analysis, and each and every one of these buildings will come right before this board for site plan review, and they'll have a traffic study this thick based on if it's a vacant lot, it's going from 0 to whatever they're proposing. That's not the comp plan. That's zoning, that's the site plan review. Today, what we're doing is we're just making this possible, making it possible to grow the city in a better fashion. I understand how silly it looks to say that this chart shows we're reducing 83% of development. It's because that's what's on paper today. This is a document. It's required by the state. So we're going to make it a good document. We're going to make it flexible, and there are safeguards. They're in this document and further elaborated in the zoning and site plan. So we're not trying to take you down a path of bad development, of obnoxious, impactful development. We all want the same thing. We want what's best for the city. We think it can grow in a good way, in a controlled way. The type of development that's proposed perhaps for Eastern Intercoastal Mall would not just be on today's terms. It would be with new access, perhaps access under the bridge, a U-turn, new entrances onto 836, redoing the traffic pattern, maybe to even be better for the adjacent neighborhood. This contains all sorts of public benefits for that site and the surrounding neighborhood. So the general document, I certainly can argue all night that no, it's a theoretical, on-paper exercise at this time, but we're not leading you down the garden path.
How does this affect the existing zoning code?
It will change for these 8 areas. The zoning, next month we'll come back and we'll show you map changes. They will be rezoned to these names, and at that time you'll have a more robust document that shows development regulations, setbacks, heights, any requirements. And again, I say we're adding height, but then we're saying, but it can only be on this portion of this zone. So we're really reducing height adjacent to single family or adjacent to the neighborhood in Eastern Shores. So, that's where we get into the more detail on the urban design, on the heights. But this document, sets the basic maximum, the basic philosophy of what we'd like to see.
So, in other words, the real document that has to do with the zoning and the real thing that a developer can come forward with a project not really requiring variances.
It'll require site plan review.
It'll still require site plan review, but
and the zoning will require, as part of that, the various public benefits, various improvements, connectivity. There's a lot of scope there for improving the city.
Right. So the zoning plan, which is what's going to come next, that's going to put the limitation. It's going to put tighter limitations on.
Yes, absolutely.
And this comp plan, whatever the comp plan is, if it was essentially unlimited in scope, which clearly it's not, but essentially saying that it was unlimited in scope, whatever was put in place as far as the zoning plan is concerned would trump whatever this is.
It has to be consistent with this, but yes, it could be more restrictive. It cannot be less restrictive.
It's got to be consistent in spirit.
Yes, and it could be more restrictive. It could not be more permissive. It has to be more restrictive.
Right.
That's why we say this is the maximum, and you're not going to see this. But
okay. So is there a disadvantage to this plan being less restrictive? Is there anything that is an issue with this being less restrictive? I mean, should we be concerned about that, or should we really be more focused on the zoning plan as far as really kind of showing what's going to be the restrictions?
So again, I go back to the idea that the comp plan is not less restrictive with the amendments that we're proposing. There are no policies in place today when you create a mixed-use district where you require public benefits. And we've been talking about these public benefits now for probably since March of last year, when we introduced the whole concept of, well, if we're going to look at redevelopment and new development and enticing and being more flexible in certain things, being more flexible doesn't mean we're going to get rid of the variance process or the process of going through a zoning board of appeals, or you know, it still has to go through the council for review. None of that has changed. The only thing we're doing is being more flexible in the sense that it will attract, it would allow for more development, that it's potential, that where there is the potential for it, such as the waterfront districts, such as the corridors that are blighted, that need new development to come in. But in terms of restrictive or less restrictive, I know Richard doesn't like to use that word, but in reality, we're asking for much more. And the comp plan, the policies that we're putting in place today, actually ask for a lot more than what you have on the books today. Today, you don't have requirements for public access to the waterfront. You don't have requirements for additional public open space. Even though your level of service is good, we're bringing the standards up higher. We're saying we want to encourage redevelopment, but if you're going to bring development here, you've got to raise the bar of what we expect.
No, I think that the concern is that where you're showing that now the maximum, and we're talking about, you know, the Eastern Shores area where the maximum is 717 units or whatever
Right.
that number is currently, and then we're going to open the potential for 2,000 residential units. So we understand that the trade-off there is that currently now there's 16 million potential square feet of commercial that could be built there. Don't get any ideas with your warehouses. But anyway, you know, so, you know, and now that number comes way down on the commercial end. Still, when you look at it, you're saying, well, it can only be 700 now, and now we're opening it up to potential of 2,000. So no matter how you slice it, it still looks less restrictive. So,
But they can't build anything unless they deal with the traffic and show you that whether it's 700 or
right,
1,400,
correct,
that whatever is being proposed works.
right, and that's kind of where, you know, I'm just want to make sure we're, you know, on the same page about this. Is that if that potential for the 2,000 units wasn't there, then there's no way that the developer would potentially bring this grandiose plan of tunnels and bridges and whatever
Right.
that might clarify a situation.
Right.
Because at 700 units, it's not feasible to do that.
And
but
that
at
way for
2,000
years and nothing's happened.
Right. So I just want to make sure that the understanding is that we're not setting zoning principle for doing that kind of density at this point in time.
Absolutely not.
Now, when the zoning plan comes down next, is that what's going to kind of address that more?
It will more restricted. It will continue to be more specific and more restricted, but ultimately, it's going to be a site plan review with a traffic study. And from what we know of this site, probably going to be the limiting factor.
How often can the comp plan be revised? Is there any
It's a
limitation
long
on that?
process. It can be revised in future, but it's a very long process.
And how long does it take for that to happen?
6 months.
Okay.
Or it's not.
Is there a limitation? Can you revise it every year if you wanted to?
Yes, you could.
Okay.
But again, when we're dealing with various proposals, you know, people coming in from different companies and proposing the ability to deal within the existing comp plan, and then we can, you know, streamline that process still with full review in front of the Planning and Zoning Board and the City Council, but it doesn't now require another 6-month process going up to the state and whatever. So I would just say this is the way comprehensive planning is done in Florida. This is my opinion. That this is professionally sound. And, you know, again, as we've described, this is the top level, biggest picture overview. We get in progressively narrowing into more details and more restrictivity until we get to the site plan stage where nothing can be built until it meets all the requirements, including traffic.
What kind of cost to the city is it every time that a comp plan is redone? Do you have any rough idea of the cost to the city? Is it something that's, 100,000 or $1 million or,
No. No, but it's thousands of dollars. It's
Okay.
staff time, advertising.
Okay. So it's not major cost, but it's
No.
cost. Okay. All right.
But it's not a good argument to keep an outmoded comp plan when we have these mechanisms to more responsibly deal with development proposals when they come.
Okay. All right. Mr. Kreisberg.
I forgot everything I was going to say.
I don't know if that's good or bad.
Well, I'm going to be brief, I hope. First, I'm sort of going to apologize for the length of time that this board is taking with extraneous matters, especially to the fact that for a year this has been going forward through staff and through our elected officials, who hopefully we've all had a part in electing. And they decided there's a new vision for this city. I think what they really want to do, when you cut to the chase, is to increase our population above the 50,000 mark, which is going to put us on some other level for grants, for money, for the betterment. And more population will lead to more business, and more business will lead to more money, et cetera, et cetera. So I am not in a position to micromanage something that was put in place by our elected officials, who hired what appears to be a very competent firm, who put together a pretty good plan. It's a new plan. While it may be a blueprint for a trip to Mars, what we had before was a blueprint for a trip to Pluto, which doesn't even exist, by way of Uranus. So at least we're making some realistic venture, and we will be on Mars. Believe me, we will be on Mars. And they may not cure the common cold, but we will be on Mars.
I thought you said brief.
Well, I'm trying to, that's the pot calling the kettle black. I don't think it's our role to look at it line by line, sentence by sentence, what this is. This is a plan that is going to pass in the council, make no mistake about it. Whatever we do here, we may vote it down because we didn't like the fact that they may build something somewhere, sometime, which may have more cars on the road than there is now. But this is a blueprint. This is the 50,000 foot shot overlay. This is, unless we do the first step, we don't do anything. This is a kickoff on a football game. This is not, we have to get to the fourth quarter. We have to get, for the winning field goal attempt, but we have to kick it off. So to say that we need a traffic study on something that doesn't exist is so ludicrous. Now, anybody can pick apart any plan if they have a negative mindset, but we need to go forward. And this is what our leaders have decided to do. I don't have an issue, but I have a comment, which I think graphics are very important to our kind of minds, which aren't that sophisticated. We don't like to read. We like to look at a picture. And my only issue is that this seems to be like the major bulletin board, and it's confusing vis-a-vis what's the proposed future land use map, which is clear. I don't know if it's an oversight, if it's a Scrivener's error. I'm looking at number 7. See, this is what's scary. Number 7, which is ostensibly the Eastern Shores.
Correct.
Well, it doesn't. It's blocked out by number 8, right?
You mean in terms of on the aerial?
Yeah, and the the little blow-up of it. Plus,
Picking a
No, it's
detail.
further east.
I'm picking at details because it's the hobgoblin of little minds to look at
Okay.
details. Because I think if you had the sexy graphic that would show it, I know what it looks like. Specifically this graphic with just
Yes.
number 7, which shows all these buildings here, which is not what anybody wants to see.
Gotcha.
So I'm just saying, clean up this picture, and this is your poster for what we're going to do, which everybody can understand. But it's much clearer on the land use map. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Well,
nobody's.
good
You're
point.
never going to make number 7 look like this. You're going to make it look like that little high-rise apartment where a restaurant may be, the cigar bar may have
Yeah.
to go away, and maybe if we had nice development there, some people are going to suffer because their Japanese massage parlor may disappear, or their nail place, or their vitamin place, or their cheap jeans place may disappear, and we may get some better restaurants and some better businesses, but that's the way of the future. So that's my only comment.
Good point.
I think if we sit here and nitpick this thing to death, and the fact that I don't know what relevance it has that your business has been, why we would even question how long you've been in business when you were vetted by the council and hired through staff input.
All right.
All right. I think it's important for this. This board has a right to know. So we didn't vet them. Yeah, because we're putting a lot of our faith as to what we're doing here because we're not the experts on this.
They've been hired and going to be paid.
I know, but it doesn't matter. We just need to be comfortable with or uncomfortable with something that we're going to be putting, our faith in. It's a fair question. So, okay, and on that note, Mr. Litowich, take it away.
You're a South Florida firm, right? You're located locally? Okay. So it seems to me that the city council perhaps wants to grow the city in a particular direction, that it should be more residential and perhaps less commercial. Is that correct?
No, this is just to get a better balance between residential and commercial. You just have you're way over the top in terms of the comprehensive plan.
Okay, I need a little bit more understanding on that. So right now we have approximately 50,000 residents here within the city limits. Is that correct?
No.
Was that what we were hearing earlier?
46.
46,000? All right, close to 50,000. All right.
Yeah, we calculated that if all these units were built and occupied, we would be at 52 once this was all built out.
Okay, so the potential then is 52,000. And Mr. Lord, how many do we have now?
About 46,000.
About 46,000. So we have
And it was mentioned earlier that
about 6,000. We're looking to grow in residents about 6,000 more people, and that's what the city council is looking for.
I would,
we
let
never
me
talked
speak to
about
that,
population.
Gene. I would say that, the title of this is Mixed Use Initiative. So yes, it is to foster residential, but when you talk about mixed use, you're often talking about both commercial and residential in proximity. That has benefits. We see that very successful elsewhere in South Florida, as some of these presentations have made. So while some projects could be standalone residential, other projects still may be standalone commercial, the flexibility, you could not do that in the past easily because you had more of a residential zoning or a commercial zoning. When you have a mixed use zoning, you can achieve that. You can achieve both residential and commercial, any kind of beneficial mix, and there can be spin-off effects, shared parking, reduction in traffic and trips. So let's not say the goal is to increase residential. The real goal is to improve the land use pattern by introducing mixed use.
Okay, and apparently we had on our books way too much square footage allotted, potential square foot allotted for commercial and industrial, and so that we're cutting that down and we're increasing the residential.
Yes.
Okay, and thank you for clarifying that. So, and then you had mentioned about access to the waterfronts and things like that. All of this land is probably already owned by somebody. So how do we accomplish that? How do we facilitate that it'll be more public access?
Yes, both in the comp plan and in the zoning, there's requirements for public access. In the comp plan, it's one of the policies that we went over that if you're going to do a waterfront district improvement, you need to provide access points to the public and activate the waterfront with public uses like restaurants and promenades and things that will be shown in the regulating plans. And those will be required when people come in to do development in those districts if they want to take advantage of the entitlements in the comp plan.
Okay, so my understanding then is that an individual owns, a private owner, owns waterfront property, and he wants to develop that, he is going to have to allocate or design it in such a way that there will be more public access.
Correct. And what Gene is alluding to, which obviously you'll see within 2 weeks, it's a regulating plan, a plan that dictates, not exactly, but in theory, the kind of waterfront access that we want, what the developer has to provide in terms of public space versus private space that's accessible. The requirement, a minimum requirement for public open space that is accessible to the entire neighborhood, like in Eastern Shores is the whole neighborhood. The other points that we talked about, and Gene briefly talked about it in the comp plan, is the upgrade to the existing fire rescue, the introduction of a new police substation, the multiple access points. All of those things will be addressed in the zoning at the very end of the zoning, and you'll see it in a couple of weeks. There'll be specific language success. In order to get through the development approval process, these things have to be addressed in that plan.
Okay, thank you. Now, I mentioned earlier that about access to the waterways and things like that. What else will the public have more access to under this plan that they did not previously have access to? In addition to the waterways?
For this particular district or for all of the districts?
All of the districts.
Because they're pretty much the same in all of them. Improvements to streetscapes, a lot of times developments come in and they work within their property lines. One of the things that we're going to be putting forward, and you'll see it, for example, in the CRA areas, there will be tax incentives. We're proposing tax incentives, rebate incentives for developments that contribute money to a pool for public infrastructure improvements so that the city can then take that money and allocate it to the streets, and it's not done in a piecemeal manner. Also, that ensures that you're going to have improvements like the Snake Creek Canal is one of those incentives that we're embedding into the CRA district for the downtown area. So streetscape improvements, greening, providing parallel parking where it's needed, widening the sidewalks where there aren't any sidewalks, for example, and obviously utility improvements. We're encouraging, when we talked about the alleyways and being able to vacate them, we're encouraging the developer to actually come in and relocate utilities in order to encourage redevelopment and actually improve the look of the city. So there's lots of little things. Public art is one of the tax incentives that we're proposing for the CRA areas as well.
Will this not scare some of the developers, perhaps? The costs of some of this?
I think that what we've built in terms of the flexibility, it depends on where you are. If you're in the waterfront, it makes sense because their increased entitlements help pay for all of those improvements, and there's a win-win, we feel. In the CRA areas, for example, where you're trying to encourage redevelopment, and you already have a system in place for a tax rebate incentive, it's just not very clearly defined where that money can be utilized. And we think this is a real roadmap. It's a real tool to be able to say this money is going to be implemented here or whichever one of those improvement areas are. So no, I don't think it will scare them. I think that we're making the development potential a lot more flexible by allowing the basket of rights.
And if I could just add, judging by the various people that our staff has spoken to in anticipation of this, real developers who own these parcels, they're pretty willing to propose something like this and work with us on this.
Okay, thank you. And I hope this will be my last question. What did you envision? How do you envision that the Snake Creek Canal will be improved? What will we be seeing there in the future? Will there be docks? Will there be promenades? Will there be walkways? What? Right now, all we have is grass banks.
Correct.
Most of it.
Well, the previous study that was done by the previous consultant when they created the town center district had lots of grandiose ideas that we think are still implementable. What we've done, and there's a combination because it really depends on every I would say every foot from Biscayne Boulevard over to the western end around 15th Avenue is very different. You've got properties that have front yards directly abutting. You have properties that have primary vehicular access. And so we actually did sections. We did a very thorough analysis of each one of those conditions and developed schematics for how the entire Snake Creek Canal can be improved, both within the public right-of-way and within the private setback areas, where each has to contribute. And we have a roadmap for that. You will see that in the next couple of weeks.
Can you give me some examples now, please?
Yeah, we have ideas for boardwalks on a certain section where the right-of-way is so restricted. We have ideas for actually closing off lanes where development can come really close to it, but then allow for about 60 feet of public access that's completely pedestrian. And all of it will depend on whether the development occurs, like, for example, a half block development or a full block development. A full block development could take advantage of the fact that it has access from multiple streets, and so therefore the front could be completely dedicated to the pedestrian. And so all of that would be dedicated back to the public in terms of a public access way. There's lots of ideas, and you'll see each cross-section that we're proposing.
The next
Thank you very much.
contains a lot of that.
Okay, Mr. Lynn.
I've learned a lot tonight. I have no questions. Thank you.
The advantage of being last on the list.
Board member of the week.
Well, hearing from the public.
Okay.
briefer than you.
Okay. Anything else from the board at the moment? No. Okay. Okay. If there's anybody who's wishing to speak in favor of or in opposition to this application, please come forward. Is there anybody here who wants to speak about this? Okay. If you just come on forward if you want to speak about it.
Do you want me to call your name?
Oh, do you have a list of?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, right now I just see 1, 2 people standing. 3.
Three.
Do we have more than 3 people here?
Yeah, call the name.
4, 5, 6. Okay. Go ahead. Call the list.
Mark Antonio.
Yep.
Okay, now I got to make sure this works.
And name and address for the record, please.
My name is Mark Antonio. I live at 2811 Northeast 164th Street, North Miami Beach. I'm here to talk about specifically Mall Lake. I represent or working on an initiative with a group of about 100 people on the Save Mall Lake conservation area. And I wanted to say that in reading this, looking at the coastal management element, which isn't something specifically you're changing, I would like to know if this board doesn't do it, but at least if you take into consideration that it should be more in line with conserving the lake versus trying to develop the lake. Specifically, what I'm concerned about in this group of people is the development of marinas around Mall Lake. I think we're going to have a really nice marina at the Palms, and I don't think it's necessary to have multiple marinas along Snake River, which is a big developer coming in. There's actually a project that's getting ready to be presented to the city, has a little bit of waterfront, and they show a beach in their proposal. And I'm not so sure that we want beaches and marinas along that estuary area. So what I would like this board to take in consideration is to make a recommendation, at least to the council, to look into that area specifically that relates to the waterfront areas and make sure that the, quote, full economic use of the waterfront is more geared towards maybe kayaking, sailing, stuff that's conducive to that area instead of a marina that'll provide, motors running and generators and that type of thing. So that's all I really wanted to say on that. If you would at least look to support that type of initiative, I would appreciate
30
it.
seconds. Okay.
The last comment is this whole thing about the 50,000-foot overview. I've been in city management for over 35 years in municipal government, and I can tell you that once you put in these basket of rights, you're not going to take them away. So don't think you can come back later on and amend your comprehensive plan to take away rights. You'll have lots of lawsuits, as you know what's gone down in Miami Beach. So you have to be very particular in saying that when you do this, you know what you're getting involved in terms of the baseline of what you want this city to look like in the future.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next. Who's next on the list?
That's not, okay, there we go. I'm trying to multitask.
I see that.
Stan Price.
Okay. Name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. Stanley Price, 1450 Brickell Avenue, Mr. Chairman, I'm representing several property owners who have an interest in the comp plan. Can I reserve my comments to see if there are any comments about any specific properties?
So you're saying that you want to not make us, you don't want to have anything to say right now, you want to come back
I
later?
may not have to say anything, I just want to hear what if the comments are
Okay,
directed to a specific...
so you want the possibility of coming back later on?
Yes, sir.
You want someone to skip in front of you, in other words?
Yes, I want to go to the back of the
You want to go to the back of the line?
Line.
I will send you to the back of the
Thank
line
you,
this
sir.
one time. Okay, next on the list.
Mary Hilton?
Mary Hilton. Mary Hilton, 1950 Northeast, 157th Terrace. I want to talk about the change from CF, commercial facility, to multi-use, or whatever you've got it now, mixed use, for the Tico gas site, or 15780 West Dixie Highway. We're a self-insured city. To put mixed use on this property that is so polluted, when I can't get answers from the EPA, and I have specifically now asked, after finding out that we don't have DERM in Miami-Dade County, I've asked that we have DERM come in from Washington. And that is specifically because of the statement that a 4.1 lake area has just evaporated, that the EPA is saying that DERM was mistaken in saying it was polluted. There's something seriously wrong here. I have 3 minutes, so I'll just read it. I was disappointed in your response, and this was a response from the EPA, that a 4.1 acre lake, now called a fill borrow pit, in places over 5 foot deep, could be gradually filled in, and the water exposed became groundwater. You didn't mention where all that groundwater went. The fact that DERM called it toxic and wouldn't allow the earlier owners to remove soil used in a portion of this lake, you are now more or less saying that DERM was incorrect in their analysis.
Your time's up, so please wrap it up quickly.
Well, that's a fact. I mean, we need to have DERM come in and tell us whether we should allow a building that's going to have people in it on this property that has radiator fuel in, that does not evaporate, that does not go away, that can actually harm animals, can harm people. Are we going to put people on that property with
I understand.
this?
So you have environmental concerns for that property. I got it.
Exactly.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Jean-Francois Gervais? Next item, okay. Michael Goldstein?
Name and address for the record, please.
Michael Goldstein, 1 Southeast 3rd Avenue, Miami, Florida. Thank you so much for this opportunity to present some remarks. I'm here on behalf of Moore 77 LC, which is the owner and developer of the Tico site, which is the property that was the subject of the previous remarks by Mrs. Hilton. And before I get into my remarks, I just want to respond very briefly to some comments that Mrs. Hilton made. She referenced allegations that were purportedly made by U.S. EPA. I've actually seen the document that she read from. U.S. EPA, the United States Environmental Protection Agency, hasn't been part of that dialogue. She's actually reading from email that she submitted to DERM, the Miami-Dade County Local Pollution Control Agency, and the county's response there too. And those remarks weren't even accurately cited. And so what I would suggest is the document she was reading from be submitted to this body so that you could review it for yourselves. But having said that, I'm here to speak in support of development of the property and to try and allay some of the concerns that this body has with respect to environmental conditions. This is one of the most closely scrutinized and heavily regulated cleanups that I've ever been involved in Florida in my 23 years as an environmental lawyer, and I've looked at over and been involved and personally involved in over 500 cleanup sites in the state of Florida. There are not one but two separate environmental regulatory agencies involved here providing oversight for contamination cleanup and human health and safety protection. The Florida Department of Environmental Protection and the Miami-Dade County Department of Regulatory and Department of Regulatory and Economic Resources. And the nature of the states and the county's involvement is that they are working hand in hand in cooperation with the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency pursuant to a memorandum of agreement that was executed many years ago for purposes of safely reusing sites just like this one. Moreover, and to that point, there are two specific regulatory documents that are in place here governing cleanup. One that goes as far back as 1987. It was executed on April 9th, 1987, 28 years, almost 28 years ago. It's a consent order between the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, the Miami-Dade County Department of Regulatory and Economic Resources, and TECO, the party that actually was responsible for the pollution initially.
Wrap up, please.
My last comment, and there's much more to say, and I'm happy to answer any questions that this body may have. The notion that the county has not approved development of this site is a falsity. There is a document that was issued, correspondence that was issued, and shared with the City Council by Miami-Dade County, the Department of Regulatory and Economic Resources, specifically approving and authorizing development of this site, notwithstanding the environmental contamination conditions, in advance of completion of cleanup. And by the way, this site, 30 more seconds if I may, Mr. Chairman.
Make it 10.
10. This site has had an extraordinary amount of cleanup, removal of 57,000 tons of contaminated soil, over 2,700 truckloads, and is now in its third iteration of groundwater remediation planning documentation to the county. But I want to cite specifically from the letter that the county issued to Moore 77, copy of which has been provided to the City Council, where the county states, Durham does not object to redevelopment of the site prior to issuance of a conditional no further action letter pursuant to the State Environmental Administrative Code, which will require recording of a declaration of restrictive covenant with restrictions on the use of the property, provided that the requirements for construction of contaminated sites are met, including but not limited to a list of conditions that are typical for sites like these.
Okay. I'm going to stop you there, but I think we get the point that they're doing a really good job cleaning up.
Thank you very much.
What I'm hearing?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Okay.
It's real short.
Right,
and this is to our city.
Wait. He asked first. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Mr. Goldstein, you said that there was 57,000 tons of soil removed?
Yes, sir.
And did you also say that that was 270 truckloads?
No, that translates roughly into 2,700 truckloads
2,700
of contaminated soil that were removed from the site pursuant to a series of health and safety plans that were submitted to the county and to the State Department of Environmental Protection, reviewed closely and approved, including...
Okay, thank you. And I have one more question. So we heard at the last meeting that approximately 24 inches was removed. Will 24 inches of new soil be added back in?
24 inches of soil have been added back in, clean fill, and on top of that, beneath the soil, there was a geosynthetic liner that was constructed to provide an additional level of environmental protection.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Mr. Smuckler.
This is to our city attorney. At the previous meeting, when we were talking about the site, you had mentioned that everything we had heard regarding the cleanup was hearsay. Are we still at that point, or does this change that? Because everything I've heard, he's read a letter, the gentleman, and very, very concise. But I don't know what we're...
Well, okay. Go ahead. Get answer.
Mr. Goldstein would qualify as an expert in this area, but the item he's speaking on doesn't directly correlate to this item. They were presenting it as evidence for a site plan approval, so the circumstances were slightly different, but he would be qualified as an expert.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. And I also think that for the purposes of what we're looking at today, the concerns, which are very valid concerns of environmental and stuff like that, as far as that project going forward. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm addressing it to the staff, that we will have an opportunity to more in-depthly delve into exactly what that's all about, what the cleanup's about, if the property is suitable for whatever use they may present coming down the road. But that's not something that's necessarily a big issue or really an issue regarding the comp plan. Let me know and enlighten us if that really is an issue.
You said it well. I continue to believe that at this comp plan stage, the brownfield status, it is not really appropriate to be, guiding your decision on what, after all, is a much larger area. If you look at those areas marked employment center, it's not just the contaminated site, it's a whole swath of West Dixie corridor going south from 163. So, yeah, at this stage, we're a higher level, but of course we can get further into that with site plan review.
Right. Okay. And make sure that they are cleaning it up the right way, because we will look closely at that at some point along the way.
Absolutely.
As you could tell how we are.
The site is subject to a tremendous amount of regulatory oversight, and again, has been for the past 27 years.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next.
Marilyn Beaumont.
I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a doctor, I'm not even an Indian chief.
But if you can give us your name and address for the record, we'd
My name
appreciate
is
that.
Marilyn
first.
Baumol. I live at 18635 Northeast 20th Court. I live in the area called Sky Lake, but I use the entire city. This is the second area I've lived in this lifetime here. I am a resident of over 50 years. I love this city. When you tell me comprehensive, that entails everything. That should entail our traffic studies. We have Marina Palms coming up, which I believe is a 24-floor condominium with a marina. That adds an awful lot of traffic to our Biscayne Boulevard. The areas that you're looking at will also add a tremendous amount of traffic to Biscayne Boulevard, where they will have to make U-turns to get into and out of this area, whether on 163rd Street or on Biscayne Boulevard. I really wish you gentlemen would consider this very carefully. I really do not feel that this is a great plan right now for our city, unless they put in a traffic study and have the county involved, so that we can change maybe some parts of Biscayne Boulevard. I thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay. Next speaker.
Muriel Kemp.
Good evening. Muriel Kemp, 1479 Northeast 178th Street. I've lived in the city for over 40 years. I have a question, and if I'm not entitled to get the answer, I'll ask it next week. When the question was asked what this study cost, the question was somewhere between a couple thousand and $1 million. That's a lot of leeway in there. May I ask what the city paid for the study?
I don't think we were talking about the RMA study when we said
Well,
I
wanted
a comp plan amendment, so this is not what was asked.
Right. I was looking to get an idea of what the cost of doing one of these studies are.
Okay.
I thought you asked me about a comprehensive plan amendment.
Correct.
Like if we had to change
We had to
this
change it
later.
Right. And my question went to the point of, if it was something that cost $1 million, it's not something that you would want to take lightly as far as changing a lot. Whereas if it was something that was extremely inexpensive, you might consider changing it more often. Of course, there's other considerations with time and stuff like that. But that was my point.
You're asking about what the charge was to the city from the RMA
Their
consulting
fee, which it's a fair question, and you can
public record.
Yeah, so whatever their fee is, go ahead, but understand.
Because it's been
that
going on for almost a year now.
Their fee is only part of the puzzle here, you know. there's a lot of-
Absolutely.
We'll
there's a lot-
provide it
we
to
might
you.
not have had to hire him if we weren't doing this. So.
Okay, you know, we're looking at, and what a lot of other people have said here too, is that the plan is one thing, and then the zoning is something else. I've been very active in this city for a lot of years. I'm really trying to remember the last time I sat at either a P&Z or especially a council meeting when a developer came for the approval and didn't get the variances that they asked for. I cannot remember once when there weren't variances on the table. And every single time, everything was approved. So my question really is, what is the point to the comp plan and the P&Z and our zoning rules when everything just gets said, fine, it's okay, go for it. Look at what we're going to have on Biscayne and Dixie Highway. Please don't make it worse. Thank you so much.
Yeah, there's certain things along the way, but I understand the point. So, okay, next speaker.
Harry Pennington.
My name is Harry Pennington. I live at 1981 Northeast 158th Street, North Miami Beach, Florida. I've been a resident of this city since 1952. I've lived down here since 1945, the year I was born. I've come to realize that you had to live, or you had to change lifestyles that you may not want to. Development goes on. And what
You need
have you.
the timer needs to be turned on, please. Timer.
The last meeting we attended, or I attended this here about 2 weeks ago, this board asked the developer for the Tico Gas Company to bring forth what their proposals were for that property. I haven't seen anything yet. I don't see any drawings or anything like to tell me what's going on there. I don't know what the impact is going to be on my neighborhood or the future use is going to be. And I think before you, I don't know exactly what you're going to vote on for tonight. I don't think you know what you're going to vote on for tonight. And I think what you need to do is sit, and you tabled this last meeting, the time out, to find out what was going on. And I don't see anything that's been accomplished here at all tonight. So I think you need to go back and readdress whatever your plans are and go forth from there. Because, like I say, I don't see anything. It's sort of like you're putting the dessert before the main course. And I don't know how you're going to work it out, but I wish you the best.
Thank you. And I can assure you that the Tico site will be highly scrutinized no matter what happens tonight.
All right.
When that project comes forward, it will be highly scrutinized.
At the end of
I can assure you that.
public comment, though, I have some more things to show you to address what he's been discussing. Let's get through the public comment, but
Okay.
remind me to bring you back to this.
Okay.
That's
All right.
that's what should have been done before public comment came before you. We should have been able to see what was going on so we could make a decision on how we feel about the projects and what have you. And that's not being done.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. All right. Next speaker.
Matthew Amster.
Hey, name and address for the record, please.
Yes, good evening. Matthew Amster with the law firm of Burkow, Riddell, and Fernandez, offices at 200 South Biscayne Boulevard in Miami. Here today representing one of the property owners in the waterfront south area. First, I want to commend the city for taking on this very great undertaking to revitalize the city. There's a lot of good ideas moving forward. I just have 2 points, both of which stem from the generality, as has been explained, of what the comprehensive plan is, that then gets further specified in zoning. First, the basket of rights idea for each district. It's a little departure from how this has been done for the rest of the city up to this point, and will continue to be done so in other areas, in the non-mixed use areas. Just need to be careful that it's more than one property that has to be allocated together. So it's a good idea, but the mechanism for working on this, which I realize will be done through the zoning, has to be careful to make sure to accommodate, not overburden specific property owners, and not have a disproportionate development. Secondly, the public realm and public benefits that have been discussed that are new to the comp plan. Again, a good idea for connectivity and providing amenities for the public. Again, I'm just trying to urge caution that the mechanisms for creating this, they're not really explained in the comp plan, so just urging that that there are some good controls and safeguards for making sure that, again, you're not overburdening property owners, providing for incompatibilities. Remember, all these properties are not going to be developed at one single time, so you have to be aware that there may be gaps in time when connectivity is a good idea but may not happen for a long period of time. Properties change hands, so owners have to have an idea of predictability, and so I think that's where we're just urging that these safeguards through the zoning process help to provide that. So again, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next speaker.
Hi, I'm Suisa. Is that on this issue? Okay.
Hi, good evening. My name is Heinz Suisa. I own some properties along Dixie Highway. I live in the city for almost 30 years. Thank God, and I really appreciate what you guys doing. And it's about time we move and kick the road, like we say. And what I wanted to say is why on east of Dixie Highway we're going to 10 floors when I'm talking about the one on 170th Street on Dixie, I think some number 2. And on the south of 170, we have 6th floor, and then we're going down to 4th floor. We always have that problem in this area. Why can't we just keep it on the 6th floors?
I think we have the proposal for the higher height on the east side of West Dixie Highway,
same.
but the west side of West Dixie Highway, the lots are too narrow. Maybe Natasha can
Correct.
talk further.
Right, we did an analysis of the lots to see what you can fit, and realistically, the parking structures don't fit within the depth of those lots that are there. Also, additionally, there are existing lower density residential, not single family, but lower density residential immediately abutting it, and we're using the same philosophy, the principle of the transition, pretty much everywhere we're going. But the primary reason was that the lots were so narrow that to fit a parking structure to accommodate a 6-story building would result in a street that had no active use on the ground floor. And we felt that it was more important to encourage the active use than just to allow parking structures for several floors without any kind of pedestrian active use along the ground floor. But we will touch that in the next couple of weeks, and we'll show the specifics.
But we still have plans for West Dixie Highway, both sides. We're going to come meet with you, and the CRA has an initiative for there, so stay tuned.
Another question, would the zoning will be changed from B1 to B2, or it's going to stay same B1 and nothing to be done there?
So the zoning...
B1 has only 5, 6, 7 business to do, and that's the end of it.
No, we're changing it to make it more flexible.
We're waiting there to change, just to be able to do a restaurant for almost 12 years.
Yeah.
Is that going to be the same thing?
No, we
All
are
this
removing the
package and then we can do
B1.
nothing there?
No, we are removing the B1 designation. We're allowing for mixed uses, and we're actually expanding the use list to, again, encourage, because it's at a neighborhood scale, encourage restaurants, cafes, all kinds of things that would encourage that sort of neighborhood general business.
Outdoor tables.
Correct.
Another question. Is the new construction will be done in the front of the property, or will be done like the way it is in the back?
In the front, correct, yeah. The new construction will be required to front
Look
the
what
street.
happened to the one in front on 161st Street and Dixie Highway. You can use it. You can do it. It's bad. It's bad. No matter what you do, whatever you do, parking in the back, it's a dead property, dead business, dead building. Look anywhere you go. Look right here. You get an example right in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
Dead property.
But then that would constitute basically creating no change and not encouraging a transit-oriented development, which is what you have today. But we will, yeah.
Okay.
Please.
Thank you.
Please. Thank you.
Next speaker.
Wendy, I'm sorry, I can't read the last name. Wendy? No? Okay.
No Wendy in the house?
Oh, she doesn't want to speak? Okay.
Okay.
Mubarak Kazan?
Mubarak Kazan. Good evening, everyone.
I need your address, please.
Mubarak Kazan, 15564 Northeast 12th Avenue, North Miami Beach, Florida. I thank the ladies for their work, their study. I did not have enough time like you people to go over that full papers that you have there. So I'm not going to comment on that. What I'm going to comment on from that is the TICO site. It's very concerning to me. I ditto most of what Ms. Hilton said. I don't think if Mr. Goldstein was here and he did not say what he said, he would have gotten his job by tomorrow. He would have been fired. So he's just defending his client. That site is a contaminated site. They put 2 feet of earth on top of the rest of the polluted site. As you rightfully said, we are a self-insured city. And should you put mixed use, which could include people living there, we could end up with a lot of lawsuits, cancer and all sorts of things. I would ask that you take that out from the mixed use. Should be looked at very carefully. In terms of tax incentives, this is Miami. Everybody wants a piece of the pie. They're going to beg coming to build here. 2006, I was a part of the Pro for development after proper impact studies were done. And I just think that I think Boca developers and them, they pay through their noses, but they didn't pay to the city. They paid to other people.
Up,
yeah, I know.
Okay.
Soon other things going to be wrapping up. School impact studies, okay? We have 10,000 more people coming into the city with this year from 42 to 52,000. And yes, let me just mention that the Gatlin-Jackson report that we did was over 150,000. So if you want an idea of what it costs, you can put some more multipliers there. I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Go ahead. Alicia? Okay.
Alicia Rook, 1971 Northeast, 157 Terrace. I'm sorry, 1900. I remember some years ago looking at the little lake, which is called, they call it a pit, and riding. And the water was a very light green, and you can actually see at the bottom the radiators and all of the parts. I saw that. I saw that. And the concern of myself and many of the neighbors is when you fill that up, when that was filled, where did the water go? That was contaminated water. And did it go to the other lake? I mean, the children are fishing, people are fishing, people wet their feet. Sometimes you see people swimming in there and coming out because swimming is not allowed. So is that lake, is the aqua bowl contaminated now? And the fill that you use to fill this 4-acre little lake in there, is it contaminated now? Should it be looked at now also? And please remember that at the last meeting it says, and that was the developer saying it, that there's petroleum contamination in the water at the west side of the TICO site. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next speaker.
Yona Lunger?
It's good to see some of you guys smiling. Thank you. Yona Lunger, and I'm going to be on behalf of the Small Businesses and Chamber of Commerce.
We need your address.
1870 Northeast 171 Street. You know where to find me, right?
We know you live there, but...
Yeah, yes. Well, I'm on behalf of their Chamber of Commerce for now. Well, here's what I look at. For those who know me, and I've put my kids through college to pick up old cars that are dead and restore them into brand new. I don't like to see 50s and 60s are dying. I want to see something alive. I'm very much in favor of taking a city that has places that are dying and putting them alive. I'm very much in favor of seeing what the quality of life is going to bring here to our city when you do something. It's time that we move to our neighboring cities and we see how beautiful they've enhanced. People drive through. All those people coming through 163rd Street, some of them that I know are afraid to stop at some of the gas stations. So the city is really changing. Some of you guys have been engineering, developers, whatever, contractors. You know what I'm talking about. So from what I'm looking at, quality of life will bring better policing, better taxes for the city, definitely better quality of type of businesses, better jobs, everything in total. We're going to look, it's going to be called the new North Miami Beach. Consider that, look through it. I trust you guys, all of you guys up there. I know that you'll make a thorough decision. I'm not here to convince you. Thank you very much for taking your personal time and giving it to the community residents. I'm looking forward to being one of them. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Is there anyone else wishing to speak? The man at the end of the line. Come on up.
Thank you. The bagels are now cold. Mr. Chairman, Stanley Price once again. Let me talk about the TECO site. I represent the owners of the TECO site. The documentation, which we have furnished to your staff and will furnish in the future, I wish those people who are critics of this property would read the reports. The environmental reports indicate that this is a clean site. This site can be built on tomorrow. We would not get the first permit from Durham or any other regulatory agency if it wasn't safe. I'd just like to point people directly across the way to Biscayne Landings, which was also a Superfund site, which is now going to be developed with several thousand units. I understand perception is very important to people, but I'm just asking everybody to look at the facts. Facts are very important. To Mr. Smucker, in regard to the Eastern Shores area, I wish to assure him, I represent the owner of that property, I wish to assure him that we're not coming to this city unless we can satisfactorily prove to you that our traffic will work. It will be a better system than what you have now, that we will provide amenities which are not presently there, and all we ask is the opportunity to come forward and prove that to you. If we can't prove it to you, this board knows what to do. I've been in front of this board for many years, and they have not been shy about denying projects. But I think what you will see and the workshops we will have with the community, I think at the end of the day, you will be very pleasantly surprised, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. All right. Is there anybody else who wishes to speak in favor of or in opposition to this application? Okay, let the record reflect that no one else has come forward. I know that staff has a comment. Go ahead.
Circling back for the folks from behind the TECO site, if the board could look at page 16 of their presentation, and Natasha, you have that queued up as well.
Of Exhibit 2 or the presentation?
The presentation. This is the PowerPoint. And we had talked some about this last month when that applicant was actually trying to put their own stamp on this. Since that's gone away. We have here, this is a study and recommendation from RMA about the buffer transition between any new development and single family to the west. We had talked about possibly relaxing that. That's off the table. Now we're told our recommendation is this RMA proposal, which is very carefully thought out and measured. It will be much more further fleshed out next time in the zoning, where there's specific numbers, heights, and step back. But for the folks in the audience, in plain English, this plan will say that closest to the residential, there has to be a green open space, no development. Then farther in, there could be some low buildings. Only once you go farther back, hundreds of feet, then it starts getting taller, and when you get all the way to West Dixie Highway, it would be the tallest. So it's stepping up from the single family, where it will be at its lowest, or actually open space, and then up higher and higher as farther east you go. So that's included. Okay.
The neighbors are saying put a 10 feet tall wall up there, the area where you're talking about, the west side.
We can certainly, at the stage of discussing...
Yeah, the public comment's closed right now,
Yeah, but certainly, as you know, when we get to discussing specific developments, we could require a wall. We could require lots of landscaping and buffer. But this plan, again, RMA does not work for a developer. They work for us, and they have taken into account the compatibility with surrounding residential neighborhoods. It's very important to keep in mind. So with that, I think, it's very clear. We would ask for your support on this. It's a great plan. Thank you.
Okay. All right. And is there any further comments from the city's consultant on this? No?
No.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
All right. So I guess we know the city's recommendation. And I guess at this point it's just a matter of any further board discussion before we go to a vote? No? Okay. With that being said.
Do you want me to read the recommendation for the record?
Oh, yeah, go ahead, sure.
Yes,
please.
okay. After working closely with RMA consultants and receiving input from the various stakeholders, the Planning and Zoning Department recommends approval of this well-thought-out comprehensive plan application package before you tonight so that it may proceed to first reading during the council meeting of January 20th prior to transmittal to the state. We fully support it and we recommend approval.
Okay. Would someone like to make a motion on this item?
I move to approve item 14-021, the comprehensive plan amendment for North Miami Beach.
Okay. And second it? Okay. I guess roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you again.
And again, we'll go over it with you, but we'd like to invite you to that zoning workshop because, that's going to be big. Yeah.
Anybody on the board need a break, or are we good to keep going? Everyone good?
I'm good.
Okay. All right. We voted yes for you. We voted yes for you, so don't worry.
All right.
I have some more questions and comments. It wasn't done.
Okay.
I want to review Mr. Kreisberg's. So we're ready.
We're going to keep going.
So we're moving on?
Yeah, we're going to hang on one second. We're going to go on 1 second.
You let me know.
What's next? The water supply?
Correct, yes.
Well, hang on. We're getting there 1 second.
I could probably introduce that real quick.
Okay. Would the city planner introduce the next item?
Certainly. Our second item for the evening is item 14-22. This is a housekeeping item. We do this every 5 years, and I will read the description. An ordinance of the mayor and city council of the city of North Miami Beach, Florida, to adopt an amendment to the water supply facilities work plan and to amend the city of North Miami Beach's comprehensive plan to strengthen coordination between water supply and local land use planning by amending text contained in the future land use, infrastructure, conservation, intergovernmental coordination, and capital improvement elements, providing for certified copies of this ordinance and comprehensive plan to the Florida Department of Economic Opportunity and to all other units of local government or governmental agencies as required under Chapter 163, Part 2, Florida statutes, providing for the adoption pursuant to Section 163.3184, Florida statutes, providing for inclusion in the City of North Miami Beach comprehensive plan, providing for repeal of conflicts, severability, and an effective date.
So that's this item, has the disc attached. Basically, as Carlos said, it's a formality. Every city has this. It's required by the state, and from time to time we have to update it with the new dates and revised studies. The city has completed its study and is now ready to adopt. There's no change in policy here. It's just updating the dates and what we have to do to comply with state law.
Okay, just one quick question. I'm looking at the package with the DVD or CD or whatever it is attached, and it says item 14021. Is that correct?
That is correct, because that is an internal number to the Planning and Zoning Department.
Okay.
Yeah, don't worry about that.
All right.
That's
And
an
then-
internal number for
all right,
record keeping.
Because the other item that's 14022, amending the city's comprehensive plan for the creation of mixed-use districts.
Correct. This water supply plan actually started before.
Okay.
It was received, and we started processing the development to bring it to this board and onto council prior to the other one.
So
I referenced 021 at the...
Right. I want to just. I'm looking at the agenda, and the agenda is showing 021 as the.
What we just did.
It's okay. It has no legislative significance. It's just a title.
Well,
No,
I
you
just want to
don't.
make sure that for the record that
The substance.
right. Well, we just want to make sure for the record that what did the item that we just recommended favorably on?
Is the comprehensive plan changes for mixed-use zoning
Okay.
initiative.
Which is item 22, 14022. Is that the correct number for that? I don't want there to be an issue down the road where
No, you are right. I apologize. On the staff report for the water, for the 10-year water supply, it should be 022, which is how it's listed in the
What we passed was 021.
correct. What you passed is 021. You're correct.
We changed this to 021, comprehensive plan.
the staff report is right. The staff report is wrong.
Correct. You will change
correct.
that to 022 for the
Okay.
item we're listening to right now.
Does the city attorney have? I just want to make sure that that little error here. I just want to make sure it's perfectly clear as far as from your aspect.
It is. Reading the titles into the record and the reports would correct any confusion.
Okay.
If there were, the record's going to accurately reflect it.
Okay. So then, in other words, the staff report that is referring to the
There's a
comp
Scrivener's
plan for the
error,
mixed
yeah.
use is actually 14021, and the staff report referring to the 10-year water supply facilities work plan is actually 14022.
Yes.
That is correct.
Okay. And then okay. So then as far as the agenda is correct. And the first item that we favorably recommended on was 14021, which is the creation of mixed-use districts.
Correct.
Okay. All right. With all that being said. Okay. All right. So is that basically the whole? Okay. Is there any questions from the board regarding this item? I could start with Mr. Lynn.
I have no questions.
Okay. Mr. Litowich.
I have no questions.
Okay. Mr. Kreisberg.
Well, I have no question.
Shocked. Mr. Smuckler.
No question.
Oh, my God. Mr. Mosier.
No question.
Okay. Okay.
Let the record reflect.
Well, okay. No, is there anybody who wants to speak in favor of or in opposition to this application? If so, please come forward. Let the record reflect that no one has come forward. And the city's recommendation, I guess that's already included in there. Okay. All right. So if we have no further board discussion, would someone like to make a motion on this item?
I move to approve item 14022.
Okay. And do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. And let's have a roll call, please.
Yes.
Yes.
I'd like the record to reflect that when I stepped out to the restroom for the previous vote, the vote was taken without me, so I'm going to sustain from voting.
No, you have to
Well, make me vote.
Yeah, you have to vote.
Wait. You don't want to vote on this item?
Yeah, you
I'm not voting.
Okay, I think a no vote is an automatic no, if I recall correctly from the past.
Code provides the only way you can you can abstain is for a conflict. Not being in the room is different.
Okay. In that case, I'll be out of the room.
Okay. All right. I thought historically that a non-vote was a no vote, but I don't know.
Never heard that.
Anyway, okay.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Would the city planner introduce the next item?
Our next item is composed of two items or two sub-items. The first one is 14-18A, which involves the vacation of the right-of-way. A resolution of the mayor and council of the city of North Miami Beach, Florida, approving the vacation and abandonment of the southern half of the Miami Drive right-of-way, consisting of approximately 25,132 square feet, as shown on the plat Fulford of the Sea, recorded in Plat Book 34 at page 20 of the Public Records of Miami-Dade County, Florida, in favor of Chef et al. LLC, the applicant, with such vacation subject to and contingent upon the city's approval of the applicant's site plan application, and with such vacation further subject to and contingent upon applicant's satisfaction of the conditions set forth in this resolution. After we vote on the vacation of the right-of-way, then we would immediately listen to item 1418B, which is the site plan approval for 1875 Northeast 167th Street. A resolution of the mayor and council of the city of North Miami Beach, Florida, granting site plan approval to construct a 60,638 square foot, 5-story mixed-use retail and office building on an assembled 1.17 acre lot as proposed on property legally described as all of Block 57A of Fulford by the Sea section according to the plat thereof, recorded in Plat Book 8, page 58 of the Public Records of Miami-Dade County, Florida, and a portion of Miami Drive lying directly adjacent to Block 57A, third revised plat of sections A, B, D, E, F, and amended plats of sections C, G, H, I, and J of Fulford by the Sea, Dade County, Florida, according to the plat thereof, as recorded in Plat Book 34, page 20 of the Public Records of Miami-Dade County, Florida.
And just to clarify what Carlos said, I think we should hear the presentation together, and then when it comes time to vote, you have two votes you have to make. But the presentation will run better if they can just address both items. The vacation of property adjacent to the parcel, and then the actual building site plan.
Okay. Is there some way we can...
No one told him to leave, and he's more than welcome to come back. Hopefully he will.
He's eating all the sandwiches.
Okay.
Why is he not coming back?
Okay. All right. Would the applicant please come forward and speak on behalf of the
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, my name is Stanley Price, along with my partner Brian Adler and Wendy Francois. We're here today representing Chef et al. With me is the two principals, Mr. Shea Sponder and Mr. Niso Bedelek, who have had patience of Job as we went through this process now for well over a year. We're here today for a site plan approval on what we believe to be the renaissance of the community redevelopment area. This is the northernmost parcel of property in that area on 19th Avenue. It's diagonally across the street from City Hall, and it's a triangular piece of property. Historically, the north portion of the right-of-way for Miami Way has been abandoned by the city, and it is being presently utilized as a parking lot and a fenced-in area for a nursing home, which is located just to the north of our site. We are asking to close the other half of the roadway. It does not, in our opinion, in any way interfere with the access egress of the nursing home, and provides a better connectivity to 19th Avenue, and a more flexible site plan that we're providing. This project is very unique in architecture, and I'm sorry Mr. Smucker is not here based on his comments at the last hearing. This is a clear example of why you have certain entitlements under a comprehensive plan and a zoning code where you do not build to the maximum. In this particular area, we're entitled to go up to 15 stories in height. This, in fact, is a 5-story mixed-use building with a retail restaurant on the first level, which will provide attractive pedestrians to walk to this area. The parking lot is innovatively placed on the second and third levels of the parcel, and the top 2 floors are office components to this building. I was before this board less than a year ago on another project on 163rd Street for an office building designed by the same designer we have here today. It was an all-glass building. That was a 7-story building in a 15-story zoned piece of property. And I think you're going to be very excited about the site plan that we have provided. And with no further ado, I'd like John Francois, who is principal architect, to come forward and describe to you in depth the uniqueness of this site plan.
Thank you, Stanley. Jean-François Gervais, Director of International Design, Engineering, and Architecture, 20900 Northeast 30th Avenue, Aventura, Florida. Here you go. Let me just get acquainted with the audio-visual. Okay, so this is what we have on the TV screen is a reproduction of what the packet that you have in your hands. So, without going into every detail of the project, I'd like to point out a few very important features. We're very excited of having the chance of working on this project. We think that it's a great opportunity to develop a site that has been neglected over the years. And we're particularly proud of the architectural solutions that we had the chance to develop in collaboration with the developer. Looking at this picture that you have in your packet on page A12, from left to right you have picture number 1 is looking towards the north. So picture 1 and 2 looking toward the north. I'd like you to take attention looking at the picture number 3, which is the third from the top. It really shows the story state of the actual site. This site basically is begging for redevelopment. It's a sea of asphalt. It's located in a place that could become a hub of activity, and right now it's a real desert. What we propose to do, I first would like to give you an overview of the architectural components of the building that we're proposing. Here it is. As Stanley mentioned, it is a mixed-use building. So we have 20,000. We propose 20,000 square feet of retail on the ground floor. Then we have 2 floors of parking, meeting the city requirement for parking, and then we have an additional 2 floors of office that totals about 40,000 square feet of office. We're not going near the maximum use of the site. The site allows for a total of 15-story. We think that the market will respond well to a project of this size. This is why the developer, in collaboration with us, came with this concept where we would develop 40,000 square feet of office and 20,000 square feet of retail on a maximum height of only 5-story. The whole design, the whole architectural language used on this building is definitely modern. It's influenced with this vague of contemporary architecture that becomes very typical of South Florida, and we think that not only the dynamism of the architectural form there will be interesting by themselves. We wish that they become some of a reference to what we wish the good architecture to be in the town of North Miami Beach. I can walk you through the plans, and then I'll be happy to answer any question that you may have.
I think, John Francois, we should point out in regard to the parking garage, how it's shielded from the roadway, that it does not appear to be a parking garage.
That is correct. So you actually can see on this slide, we'll do something similar to what is shown on the top right pictures. So the parking garage would be naturally ventilated, but will be screened from view, so you won't be able to see the cars from the streets. It will be done with some kind of metallic mesh that will have that will be attractive in appearance. Okay, you see...
Can you put the elevation back on for Mr. Smuckler? He was not in the room when you...
The elevation?
Yes, please.
There we go. So...
No,
that's not the elevation.
One before, the one you just had.
The elevation,
The
that's
rendering.
it. The rendering.
Yeah, that. If you could just leave that up all night.
Yeah. And a corned beef sandwich in your set.
Yeah, well, actually, that rendering talks more than the elevation themselves. You can see clearly the retail on the ground floor that turns the corner from 19th Avenue to 167th Street. The corner itself would be very suitable for a cafe-type restaurant that could accommodate some outdoor seating. Toward the west part of the property is access to the two loading bay that are required for the project, as well as a ramp that goes up to the 2 levels of parking. So it's a pretty simple project. It's a modest project. You mentioned that you have the traffic impact study in your hands that show that the project do not have any adverse effect on the environment. We think it's a modest project. I think it's very well suited for the site, and we wish that you share our enthusiasm for its development.
If I may point out respectfully, there are no variances being requested for the project, and the only assistance we have asked for the city is the closure of that road, which, based on the traffic study, is not a necessary roadway, and it's very rarely used. And as the city has set the precedent to the track to the north, they've already dedicated that half of the roadway for the use of our neighbors to the north. We believe that there would be no negative impact to the surrounding area by closing the road between 19th Avenue and the tip of our property.
Right. Some of the feature that we pay attention also on the 19th Avenue, when you're on a site looking toward this building, the City Hall, you'll see that the row of green trees and planters is actually kept. So the sidewalk is really continuous. Then we create on the corner, as we say, this surface that would be very suitable for a cafe or an outdoor seating for a restaurant. We have the main entrance to the building on 167th Street, and we're keeping perpendicular parking similar to what's in the area for immediate serving of the retail.
And as required by the Technical Review Committee during their comments, the sidewalks on 19th Avenue will be realigned, that they would now create more accessibility and walkability in the area. And we thank you. We'll be happy to answer any questions that you have.
I'm confused on which
Miami Road, which is the triangle piece, sir.
It's on the north side of the property.
North side of it?
Your property and the nursing home.
That's correct. The nursing home has already closed the other half of the roadway, and in fact have fenced that area off and is using it for parking.
The Miami Drive.
Yes, Miami Drive.
What's the ownership of, how does that?
You know, when it started off years ago, there was the right-of-way, the diagonal street. And right-of-way is, you know, owned by the city on behalf of the two property owners adjacent. Several years ago, the nursing home applied for the vacation of the north half of Miami Drive. I don't know why at that time they didn't then just award the south half to the adjacent property. It was just an abandoned gas station. That's probably why. But now...
Well, it's still a two-lane road.
Well...
I don't know if it was 4 lanes.
So
It works as
this
a...
block area of the road is going to be...
It will be gone, correct.
It's going to become private property.
Yes, which is correct. No more road, but
Give the property to the owner by deed, or?
Is it being sold?
yes, right of way. Technically, you know, we hold it for use of circulation, for traffic, for access. If it's no longer needed for those purposes, it can, through an action of the council, it can revert back to the adjacent property owner. Usually, when let's say a street segment is vacated, then half would go to one, half would go to the other.
Originally, it was part of the original property. Then they
Yeah.
deeded the right-of-way, or gave you the right-of-way, or through an
Yeah.
easement.
Well, like years ago with platting, this was one of the original plats of
And now it's
the
reverted
city.
back to the...
If we so choose to do
without
that.
consideration.
But, again, we don't see that road in use. The rest of the city is a grid pattern.
Right.
There are a few instances of the diagonal that may have made sense a long time ago when that was supposed to be more of a ceremonial entrance or something like that. But at this point, the city has no real need for this, would prefer to see development on the balance of the property, and so we recommend both the vacation and the site and the approval of the building.
Came before us for something, an apartment, the guy wanted
They were going to do a remodel on the existing kind of, they were going to do a small remodel, but that never moved forward.
That was not our client, not my client.
And then it was sold.
Right.
It was only about 6 months ago.
Roughly, yeah.
Okay, so now the city of North Miami Beach is going to be giving this property away, is that it, or it's selling it?
Please speak into the mic.
I would probably want to defer.
Is the city of North Miami Beach going to be giving away this property, or are they going to be selling this property?
If you're talking about this street, we don't actually own this street. We have an easement, and so we're vacating our easement.
Well, who owns the street then?
The abutting property owners actually own the underlying land. So when a city vacates, it reverts to the abutting property owners, which is what we're doing in this case.
Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong then. So the city was using it as a street, but we did not own the property.
We don't own the streets. We have an easement to them. Some streets we do.
So we're vacating our easement.
And it reverts to the abutting property owners because there's no longer
half
need.
to the nursing home, half to
No.
Except that
the half has already been closed. The nursing home has taken
got their half.
Their half.
The nursing home already have this.
Okay. The original half has already previously gone to the nursing home.
That's correct.
The remaining half will now go to your client.
Right, and we will have the privilege of paying the taxes on that additional roadway.
Okay. That's part of what you are going to be building on.
Correct, and it makes the project work, sir. It would be too small a piece of property to do anything of this mixed-use nature if it was just on the original property. That's why you approached the city. They asked for a traffic study. The traffic study confirmed the fact that this was not a necessary roadway. It wasn't connecting to any area, and that's why I believe the city is recommending approval of it.
Thank you, Mr. Bryce.
Okay. Mr. Bozier, you got any questions?
If this building was a woman, I'd ask her at the dinner. Beautiful job.
I don't know what your wife would say about that.
Just if you're going to have a restaurant and offices in the building, you required a dumpster? Is that just an architectural?
Yes, there's a dumpster. If you look on the plan.
It says trash room, but not.
It's air-conditioned space. It has to be with the restaurant.
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah, but just that you need a dumpster. So it's a single door, a 3-foot door. So.
We will.
The gray building, the 4-story, that's the nursing home?
That is correct.
Okay. I think you've done a wonderful job here.
Thank you. I appreciate your comment.
It'll be a big asset to the city.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Smuckler.
I guess what I have is more a comment than a question. And you've done a beautiful job on the building.
Thank you.
And it's going to be a beautiful addition to the city. And I admire that you had a comment there that you're not impacting vehicular traffic onto 19th Avenue. I think that's admirable on the design.
Okay,
thank you.
Okay, Mr. Kreisberg. That's it?
That's it.
Okay. Mr. Litowich, anything else?
Yeah, just my compliments to the architect. You did a wonderful job.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Lynn?
It's a very nice building.
Thank you.
All right. Is there anyone here who's wishing to speak in favor of or in opposition to this application? If so, please come forward. Were you sworn in earlier?
No, sir.
We're going to have to swear you in. Okay. All right. So I need you to raise your right hand, repeat after me. I.
I.
Say your name.
Roland Veilleux.
Swear or affirm.
I swear affirm.
Tell the truth.
To tell the truth.
The full truth.
The full truth.
And nothing but the truth.
Nothing else but the truth.
Okay.
My name is Roland Veilleux. I live at 13730 Highland Drive. This is Archie Creek, not Highland Village. And I just look at the picture over here. And believe you me, if you pass on that one, that means there is a problem. This is one of the best buildings I've ever seen. And this is, just like you said, gentlemen, this is the beginning. The game is opening for North Miami Beach. This is the opening. And this is just a nice way to start the business in it. And we need more than that. And the city of North Miami Beach, you don't know, you don't have any place to go. You want to walk somewhere, to go to a building, a restaurant, something like that. You don't have no downtown. And this is the beginning to do something about North Miami Beach. And I hope that all of you are going to vote for it and many, many more projects. Thank you very much.
I want to thank my uncle for coming.
Welcome.
Is there anybody else who'd like to speak on this project? All right, let the record reflect that no one else has come forward. Okay. Any further board discussion at this time? No?
Well, I would just make a motion that we lay this matter on the table for a few minutes so that we may re-vote. And Mr. Smuckler was out.
Okay, wait. Can't we finish this item and then come back to the last item afterwards?
Well, this would only take a minute.
If you do a motion to lay on the table, it'll put this on pause, allow the other items to be reheard before moving on from the agenda. So you do a motion to lay on the table.
Okay, so you prefer to do it that way?
A motion to lay on the table needs to be seconded and approved.
Okay.
I move to lay on the table.
Okay, you want to temporarily table this item?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
For a minute.
Okay, is there a second on that?
I second that.
Okay. All right. And as far as do we need a roll call vote for that, or
Two motions is sufficient.
Okay, just all in favor?
Yeah.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right.
And now-
okay.
Now I move
To do a motion to reconsider.
motion to reconsider the previous two items.
The first motion will be to reconsider
Item 14.
021.
021.
Okay. All right. So
we may have a full vote of these.
Yeah.
Okay. So
You use the words, not the number.
For the comprehensive
Zoning,
zoning,
mixed-use zoning
mixed-use
initiative.
zoning
RMA.
issue plan.
Okay, and just to kind of, since I like to keep everything black, white, and clear for everybody, we are deciding to take a new vote because we had one of our members that was absent during the original vote, so we're going to re-vote on the two items that were previously voted on. So, so first, huh? So, okay, so the motion on the table is that we want to have a new vote on 14021 comprehensive plan amendment.
About the zoning,
which is on the mixed use part. Okay.
Presented by RMA.
Okay. Okay. Do we have a second?
I second the motion.
Okay. All right. Roll call, please.
Not sure.
Yes.
Yes.
No.
No, this vote is on the reconsider.
No.
Yes, this is a motion to reconsider. So yes, you want the motion to reconsider.
Oh, yes.
That was to lay on the table.
Okay, so we're not doing this is not a revote right now. This is just a
Just to reconsider the revote.
okay. Okay.
I move. Yeah. Are we done? No.
She's going to finish the roll call.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
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 Okay, now you guys have a motion to lay on the table, which everybody approved.
Right.
Now you've got a motion to reconsider agenda item 14-021. So now you're going to reconsider the item. So now
I move to approve item 14-021.
I second. Litowich.
And now we'll roll call. Yeah.
It's be interesting minutes.
I know.
Yes.
Yes.
So now this is the vote
This
for
is
the
the
item.
vote on the item.
No.
Yes.
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 Okay. I move
To
to
reconsider.
reconsider item 14-022 relative to the water
supply plan
amendment.
I second.
You can do a aye.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
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 Okay.
I move to approve item 14-022.
You're doing a lot of moving.
Didn't he just say that?
No.
No, 021.
Now reconsider. Now we're voting.
Right. First you have to
approve
reconsider it. Now
You
we're
can
gonna revote.
second it if you so prefer.
I second.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 I
Okay.
would like at this time to thank Mr. Price for his patience, and I move to unleg, if that's possible.
What is the correct term?
Now we
But
are
I
going to.
move
We wanna
now
untable.
Consider
It's called back.
this,
Okay.
put back on the
Yeah.
table the item, both items
Oh, yes, you have to vote on
separately.
vacation and then the site plan review.
I'd like to.
Okay. So now we're going to we're looking for a motion on.
To put back on the table.
Do you want me to recommend for the record?
Oh, okay. Yeah. So we need a motion for the untabling.
To put back on the
I
table.
move to put back on the table.
You need a second? Litowich. It's, which is being heard with 01.
It's going to be 018 A and B.
A and B.
Both items.
Oh, it's a.
Litowich seconds.
And now all in favor? Now
All in
you-
favor?
Aye.
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 Now we're back to where we were.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Smucker will be treating everybody to dinner at Morton's.
Can
shortly
I
after
just say
this.
something? I'd like to apologize for stepping out to the bathroom and not letting everybody know that
Where you were
I
going.
was
Right.
not in the room.
Okay.
But let me just say this, that normally outside and in the restroom, you can hear what's going on in here, and there wasn't any sound. And I just saw there was a discussion going. I had no idea that the vote was happening. So again, I apologize.
Okay.
More than we wanted to know.
Okay. So now we need, now we're back to, on the current item, which is 14018A and B.
Correct.
We need the city's recommendation on both items.
Correct.
You're going to read them individually, or you're going to read them together?
I'll do it together. I will reference the conditions listed because there are several of them.
Okay.
But I'll do it together.
Okay.
So staff recommends approval of the requested right-of-way vacation and of the project site plan submitted with the conditions listed on your two staff reports, because there are two separate staff reports, one for item A and one for item B, and we recommend approval of both with the listed conditions on each staff report.
Are there separate conditions on each, or is it?
Yes, there are.
Okay. And has the applicant reviewed all these conditions?
Yes, we've reviewed and we agree with the condition.
Okay, so you can accept all the conditions?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, so any further board discussion on these two items? Okay. And then the way we're going to do this is we're going to have two separate votes. And so the first vote is going to be on 14018A, which is the vacation part.
I move to approve item 14-018A, which is the vacation of portion of Miami Drive.
Okay, do we have a second? Second. Okay, roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay. All right, now we're going to need a motion.
I move to approve item 14-018B, the site plan approval, with all of the conditions as listed in the staff report.
Okay.
My second.
Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Thank you very much.
Thank you. If you want
Thank
your
you.
plans back, you can use them for council.
Do you want plans back, or you got them?
Sure going to make City
You
Hall
need
look
them for
shabby.
council, right?
Yes, you guys can leave them on your desk, and when I clean up afterwards, I'll gather them all.
Everything?
Yeah, yeah.
Whatever you don't want.
Okay.
Thank you.
Probably are.
Yeah, here, have more.
I told you, you come in, do
That was great.
council.
So
You come in, do council on the third.
normally you can hear the audio. because I just-
Okay, so would the city planner give us the date of the next meeting? You can take a minute. Do you know the date yet, or you don't know the date yet?
Yeah, it's my birthday,
One sec.
February 9th.
And while you're looking, is there anything in the pipeline that you're aware of?
Yes, next month's meeting will be on the 9th.
Bring my cupcakes.
Yes.
February 9th.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And I'll communicate with you tomorrow via email to the group.
That's for sure the zoning.
Yeah, but we're going to invite you to the council zoning workshop.
On the 27th.
So you get a double dose of this stuff. And
All right. No, we're not adjourned. We're not adjourned. Also, for the record, since this is a public meeting, there's an opportunity for any public or citizen comments. So if there's anybody who would like to comment, they have that opportunity at a meeting of this type. And the record reflects that no one's come forward for that.
Can I comment if I live here? You guys are amazing. That's all I want to say.
thank you, Board.
Thank you.
Very
Okay.
productive.
Otherwise, we need a motion for adjournment.
I move to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, we're done. Thank you.